Donald Trump has been indicted again, and you're going to love this, everybody. He's being indicted by the Biden DOJ for trying to wipe a server. I kid you not. It is beautiful irony, and I got to be honest, I'm very, very glad they did it. Because, it's only going to be a matter of days, maybe hours, until Hillary Clinton gets indicted for actually having her server deleted and phone smashed with hammers. Now, I suppose the reason they're indicting Trump for this is so they can make the argument that, hey, you claimed for years that wiping a server was a criminal act, and here's Trump trying to do it. Now you have to be against Trump. But it actually does the inverse. Now I'm going to be like, you said no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges against Hillary, so clearly you are not reasonable prosecutors. Right now we got this big story about Hunter Biden. They tried sneaking in an unprecedented blanket immunity deal for Hunter on all charges, and the judge caught it. Yeah, see, this is what they're doing. The Biden DOJ, corrupt as they come, and we're watching it happen in real time. So we'll talk about that. Plus, ladies and gentlemen, Anheuser-Busch is laying off hundreds of people. This is crazy. That's how bad it's been with Bud Light sales. So winning the culture war. Before we get started with all that news, my friends, I also got some more news. If you go to castbrew.com, support the show by buying our coffee. You can join the Cast Brew Coffee Club, where you'll get 3 different bags every month. There's the ground and the whole bean version. I hate to say it, but we sold out in a day. I think it's a day. Mr. Bokus Pumpkin Spice Experience sold out. Stand Your Grounds medium roast, whole and ground, have completely sold out. So, wow, thank you guys so much for buying our coffee and supporting the show. We will work as quickly as possible to get that restocked, but could take a couple weeks. In the meantime, you can buy any of the other blends. We've got Unwoke Decaf, Sleepy Joe. And of course, I got to tell you, if you haven't tried Appalachian Nights, you're missing out. I think it's the best coffee I've ever had. But man, I don't even think we got a sample of the pumpkin spice yet. We've had the initial production line where we got it and we formulate it and taste it and everything. But we put this up like a day ago, and y'all bought every single one of them. We're gonna have to get that restocked. But thank you so much for supporting us by buying our coffee at Cast Brew. We sponsor ourselves because we have to build that parallel economy. Don't forget to also go to timcast.com and click that join us button. We're going to have a members only uncensored show coming up at about 10 p.m. And as members, you can call in, submit questions to call in and talk to our guests. The reason why I think it's going to be so great as we talk about the parallel economy is that joining us today, smash the like button, is the Harman Brothers. These are the guys behind Sound of Freedom's distribution and Angel Studios. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Neil Harman. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Angel Studios.
You can carry the mic around with you.
Oh, great. Yeah, Neil Harman, co-founder and CEO of Angel Studios.
And I'm Jeff Harman, also co-founder.
And there's another Harman brother back there.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough space, so we got another Harman brother.
There are 3 more.
There's 3 more.
Yeah,
There's too many.
Holler back.
Too many Harman brothers. But you guys are the founders of Angel Studios.
Yes.
This is amazing. Parallel economy. We've got to build our own spaces, build our own culture. You guys just had a smashing success with Sound of Freedom. We're big fans, so right on it. Do you want to mention anything about the studio so people can understand? We'll get started.
So Angel means ownership. Angel investors were the first to invest in Broadway, right? They were the ones who made those shows possible, and it's the same thing here. We've got over 100,000 people who've invested in the shows that we've done: Dry Bar Comedy, The Chosen, Tuttle Twins, Sound of Freedom. The people are bringing these shows to market.
Right on. Well, this is going to be fun. We certainly will talk about that. There's this funny article from Vox where they said Sound of Freedom is as dark and dangerous as child trafficking itself, which is the most psychotic and insane thing. But I love it because Sound of Freedom was originally owned by Disney, right? It was made by Fox, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then you guys secured the distribution rights. Is that how it went down?
Yeah, so Fox originally made it, then Disney acquired Fox, and then the producer Eduardo Verástegui, who was here, he managed to get it out of Disney, and then we got the rights.
Who knew that Fox was so into QAnon?
I know, that's crazy. Can you believe it?
And
It's a lot of
Disney.
sense. Yeah,
Crazy.
wow.
They did it before it was a thing.
They invented it.
How hip of them.
Maybe.
We also have Hannah Claire Brimelow hanging out.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And Ian's here also.
Yes, I am. I'm very excited to be here with you guys. Great to finally meet. Been a long time coming. So let's roll this ball down the hill.
Indeed we shall. I am Surge.com. Going to be a fun one, guys. Pleasure to meet you.
Well, here's the big news today. We were all waiting eagerly to hear about the potential indictments. It was presumed that Trump would be indicted on something related to January 6th, but instead, this is the most ironic and hilarious thing. The Daily Mail reports Trump accused of trying to delete the Mar-a-Lago server and wipe surveillance footage in bombshell new indictment. Ex-president hit with more charges, and head of club's maintenance is also implicated in classified documents case. The long story short of it, Trump apparently told some guy he wanted, they say the former president allegedly told aides to wipe security footage from his Florida club server as a way to foil investigators probing the removal of classified documents from the White House. See, that's an opinion statement. They're making an accusation. Just because Trump wanted a server with security footage wiped doesn't mean he intended to commit a crime by doing so. He could have just been like, oh, we're going to do a routine like wipe of the servers. But I digress. Carlos de Oliveira, Mar-a-Lago's head of maintenance, has been named as the third defendant alongside the former president and his valet, Walt Nauta. Both developments present additional legal jeopardy for the former president, who spent part of Thursday, blah, blah, blah. Just imagine this. Imagine this. It's been years since they outright said they will not indict Hillary Clinton for actually deleting public record, for having phones smashed with hammers. So you're sitting there as Trump and you're like, we're totally allowed to do this. Comey himself said it. Okay, well, wipe the server, I guess. Nope, now they got you. Now you're going to be criminally charged and arrested.
Sounds like they're having. It actually feels like they're having fun. That they are like, let's just get him. Let's get Trump on what Hillary didn't get on. It'll be just desserts for Donald Trump. I don't know if that's true.
It's hard for me not to look at it and think, now that they're arresting his head of maintenance and his valet, that they're trying to make him feel guilty for putting regular people in harm's way. Like they are trying everything to get him to take a plea deal, to sort of bow down to this. It seems kind of sick.
Man, I just was thinking of Hillary when Donald Trump was on stage with her, and he was like, if I was president, you'd be in jail. You never forget. Nothing. They never forget.
It's one of the best debate moments in modern history.
I think that's the reason why they're trying to put him in jail right now, because they're like, you do not do that to the Democratic Party in public. You do not say those things directly to Hillary Clinton in public unless you want to face the wrath, is what this feels like.
I mean, Republicans sit around doing nothing, and Democrats are lobbying Molotov cocktails figuratively and literally. In New York, they quite literally did. And now they're trying to arrest Republican electors. They're charging them with felonies. They're indicting Trump again. They're going after his maintenance guy. Mm-hmm. It just kind of feels like the Republican Party is sitting there going, oh no, or they're in on it. They're
well, what can they do?
Republicans?
Exactly.
So in say a Republican state like West Virginia, where you have Republican DAs, they can start criminally charging Democrats. They can say, hey, hold on there a minute.
You just fight fire. I mean,
is it fighting fire with fire? I mean, is there, when it comes to, say, like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, do any of the crimes they've committed extend to the jurisdiction of these conservative or Republican, or even in some cases like Republican libertarian counties or districts? The answer is, of course, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden, for instance, there was already talk from Republicans about potentially bringing charges against Joe Biden because if he's operating out of certain territories or certain areas, I mean, a lot of these people have property in Florida, right? Mm-hmm. Ron DeSantis and the Florida DAs could be going after people, but not a single DA, not a single Republican anywhere has come up with any reason or has found any crime committed. Look.
But they're like, isn't Congress about to impeach Biden?
No.
So they're kind of throwing back.
They're not.
They're not?
No.
Didn't they say that? Like
Kevin McCarthy said this may reach the level of an impeachment inquiry.
Okay. All right.
So
I just heard that like 2 days ago that there was
and they say these things so that you hear they're going to impeach Biden. When what he actually said is we might ask the question, should Biden be impeached?
We might think about it.
We might
okay.
like
right.
They're not even asking should Biden be impeached. They're saying, if this keeps happening, we might have to ask each other if this reaches a level of impeachment.
I mean, I think you asked a good question. What do we do? Or what do people do in general? How do you fight back against the machine? I don't.
Well, and it's the judicial system, right?
You would think so, but then I see Sam Bankman-Fried released today from his charge, and he's walking out. He's his $10 billion scam, and he's going free. Hillary Clinton didn't get charged for emails. James Comey said she did nothing wrong. Hunter Biden had a pat on the wrist. Of course, that may be no longer the case with some of the charges maybe being put back on the table. But it feels like using the legal system to disrupt the people that are at the top of the legal system isn't the best method. So how do we? I like to make culture
building
resilient.
culture.
So yeah. Well, we went through this because we were sued by Disney, and we learned pretty quickly that fighting a lawsuit with Disney in Los Angeles is not a place you want to be. So we were handed all kinds of crazy, like our trial, for example, we had someone who was going to come testify from Google that we had gone to work with Google to try to get licensing to be able to skip stuff in TV shows and movies. And the judge said last minute, this person can't testify.
The morning of, right?
Morning of.
And those decisions are decided 30 days in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then after that, the judge lets Disney testify Google's motives with their expert. So crazy stuff. And so we just decided we've got to get out of court as fast as we possibly can and fight in the marketplace. That's one place where we feel like we still can fight. And we settled in 2020. And our company, when we were sued, we did like $8 million. And here we are. We have a formerly Disney film that is winning in the market.
So 130 million?
People that
Yes.
don't know
So-
about your lawsuit, did you really quickly explain like what was the lawsuit or what's public about it?
So the way that we started Angel Studios is 10 years ago, 4 brothers and a cousin, we had young kids like 9 and under. And we wanted to watch really great, compelling stories, but have them match values. Like my 9-year-old, I didn't want him to go and speak to his sisters in certain ways when they were young. And so we created this technology that would allow you to skip certain language or skip nudity or whatever. And we thought if we launch this technology, we're going to collect a group of people who care about storytelling and care about family. And then we'll be able to distribute news stories to these people better than Hollywood can. So that was the original vision. So we built the filtering technology, the skipping technology. 2016, it started to succeed, and then we got sued. And then 2020, we settled, and then we pivoted during that lawsuit, we pivoted to creating our own stories.
You said you settled for $8 million? Is that what you said?
It was like 7.8. So it was a $62.5 million judgment. And they basically said, we'll forgive that if you'll pay for some of our legal fees. And we settled in 2020.
So our thought process was, after fighting for 4.5 years, and Disney had probably spent tens of millions of dollars trying to destroy Angel, and we had spent millions of dollars trying to fight back. It was just, we got to get out of their game. We can't fight inside of the system.
Well, and they
that
can
own.
outspend you. That's one of
They
the
can
challenges in
outspend
the
us.
legal system.
And the whole entire Hollywood system knows that this downtown LA court, they call it the bank. Like they call it, like it's called the bank because you can just take anybody there and get money out if you're a Hollywood studio. And so we actually got hit really hard by Disney. And so there was this moment where you're just realizing you can't fight them on their ground. We just got to opt out of this system and build an entire parallel studio system to the current Hollywood system, or else we can't rise up through their system.
And so how did you, so people don't know, you guys, the Harman Brothers, do commercial work too. You guys have done a lot of like the squatty potty stuff. You did the rainbow poop coming out of the unicorn commercial, iconic.
Yes.
And so did you take your like private money and then you were able to rebuild after the settlement, or like how did you come back from it basically? Because I think a lot of people might think you get grounded to dust. Going through that.
Well, I mean,
we almost did.
Yeah, and we don't know of a company who's a startup that has survived from a Disney lawsuit, so we feel very grateful. But one thing that happened is we had 2 major successes while we were in bankruptcy going through the lawsuit. Dry Bar Comedy, which gets over 1 billion views a year. It's stand-up comedy that's funny for everyone. And then The Chosen, which is like a top 5 TV series. And we just started growing like crazy during this lawsuit, and then Disney, and then we had a trustee during the bankruptcy who was in charge of our company.
We had to file bankruptcy. So,
Yes.
But to protect us from Disney, there's Chapter 11 bankruptcy has this format where you can actually use it as a shield against a predator. So we used bankruptcy to protect us from Disney.
Yes, and then as soon as the trustees saw how fast we were growing with this parallel system that we were building, he said to the judge, these guys are going to be able to pay off the entire $62 million. And Disney said, wait a second. We actually don't want to be paid back. We just,
put them into Chapter 7.
Yeah, just put them into Chapter 7. And the judge is like, oh, you guys aren't acting in your own financial interest. I can't trust you anymore.
Why didn't they want to be paid back?
Because they wanted us dead. They wanted us. Chapter 7 is liquidation. Right. They wanted all our assets sold off. Wow. They wanted the judge to say, you don't have $62 million today, so sell everything off, and then we get what's left. But the trustee said, no, these guys are growing so fast, they're going to be able to pay off this whole $62 million. I just need a plan, plus interest.
Wow.
And Disney's like, no, that's not what we want. And
wow.
Disney's like, no, thank you. please no.
They're like, no, we don't want to be paid off. And the judge is like, why? The whole point of Chapter 11 bankruptcy or Chapter 7 is you're supposed to want to get paid back, not just destroy a company.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, I'm not going to let you do that.
And then he threw it out or what?
No. Then Disney said, no, okay, we'll settle. If you guys won't ever use your technology to filter our stuff again, we'll forgive the $62 million. You guys pay,
part of our legal fees.
Part of the legal fees, and we'll call it good. We just went, like I said, like Jeffrey said, we have 100,000 people who have invested, who help make the content decisions. We went to our investors and we said, guys, we told you we'd fight this all the way. We have this chance that we can just go after original storytelling. Instead of skipping over Hollywood stuff, we make our own stuff. We tell our own stories, and we control those stories. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to fight this all the way, or do you want to tell our own stories? And 84% of our people said, let's just go tell the stories. And then we offered to buy out the rest of them.
Did you get inspired during the court process to start your own storytelling?
So actually, we thought about doing our own storytelling at the beginning. That's the only reason Jeffrey's involved.
Yeah, I told Neil when he came to me, Neil and Jordan came to me and they were like, let's build this system that skips and mutes content in movies. And I was like, that happened a while back. And there's like 14 companies that did this and every single one got sued out of existence.
But what's the grounds for suing?
It's copyright. There's copyright arguments.
But it seems weird because if I had a movie on at home and I skipped it, that's not copyright. But if you have a technology that does
it's because the technology there's a law called the Family Movie Act of 2005 that allows you to skip and mute content that's transmitted over the internet. We read that and said that means as long as the customers bought the content
and as long as they make the choices,
then as long as they're making the choices, then we can provide technology to skip and mute content. Disney came in and said, no, the DMCA, you're decrypting. Oh, what I don't, Neil. Well, Neil can explain it better.
I think the best way to explain it was this: the Ninth Circuit basically said, we see VidAngel's argument.
That was your company.
Yeah, our company at the time was called VidAngel.
That sounds like a good thing.
We see it. This is a novel interpretation of the law. We also see Disney's argument, and it just so happens if we go with VidAngel's, there's a big hole in copyright law.
Yeah.
So we can't do that. We're going to go with Disney. And we're like, well, wait a second. The Family Movie Act was like an exemption under the copyright law. Why, that's
Why
what
is that
they
a hole? It is a hole. It's designed
to be an exemption, but we weren't going to win in that court. We weren't going to win in that system. So.
What if you open source technology and just release it to the wind?
We actually did set up a foundation in the middle of the lawsuit and announced that, and Disney came screaming to the courts and saying that they needed to seize the company from us before we let any assets out of the company. So
because that was
Stopped you from doing
ultimately.
what's that?
They stop you from doing it?
Well, we were just asking the court if they would let us do it, and Disney stopped it.
Wait. So you're saying the technology, which seems completely honest in today's day and age, not
pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is not available. I mean, there's got to be open source versions of this.
So we settled and we sold VidAngel
Yeah.
off, and it still works. You can.
It just doesn't work for Disney
It
stuff.
just does not work for Disney or Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So like two of the biggest producers of children's content that you would maybe want to use this for.
Yeah.
Weird.
So hold on. This is.
But it's doing well.
You can't run a plugin on your own browser watching movies. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So you can.
But you can't.
But you can't do it with a modern streaming device. So you can't do it through your iPad. You can't do it through your Roku, iPhone, all those things. That's what
a VHS tape.
You can do it on a browser.
You could do it through a Chrome browser with an extension.
But you can't get it on an iPhone or something?
Yeah.
Because it would have to
any modern device you wouldn't be able to do it with. And
I guess technically, if you used Chrome on your phone to watch, which would not be as good as the streaming app. But
Chrome on your phone doesn't support extensions.
Right.
So
what you're saying is the thing that you made actually would go between an app. And
yeah, it would basically go like if you have your Netflix account, you'd tie your Netflix account to VidAngel, and it would go and it would be you. You'd make your choices. You'd say, "Oh, I want to skip nudity," and then it would go up and it would in the cloud. It would contact your Netflix account, get your Netflix stream, skip it, and send it down to your iPhone or to your Roku or whatever. And that that's the only way it could be done on a modern streaming device. And it was like 14% of the market is on a desktop, and 86% of the market at the time was all on streaming devices. So that's how we delivered the technology.
Right. Well, I get it.
Yeah.
When you guys settled and then you bounced, did you bounce out of California after that? Are you still sticking around Cali?
We're in Utah.
Okay, so you were never based in California? That's just where the lawsuit happened?
Yeah.
So what happened? After you settled, like, what was the impetus for the next generation of Harman?
Of Angel Studios?
Yeah.
So after we settled, we bought Angel.com, and then we rebranded as Angel Studios. Angel being investor. And
we had Dry Bar, we had The Chosen,
yep.
and then we just started expanding. Tuttle Twins, which you can see I'm sporting right here. The Wing Feather Saga, which is fantasy. Tuttle Twins is like a freedom education thing for kids.
From Ron Paul, right?
Yeah.
It fit in that world.
Yep.
And then you've got Sound of Freedom now.
Which is fun because we went through all this battle and Fox was acquired by Disney during our lawsuit, and this parallel story was happening, and then we ended up with the rights to Sound of Freedom here in 2023.
Yeah, Fox paid for Sound of Freedom to get made. Is that how it worked? And then Disney bought them, so Disney owned it.
Yep.
And they were suing you when you bought it from them? Or did you wait till after the lawsuit?
No, it was after the lawsuit.
And then you purchased it back.
Yeah.
Well, the team purchased it back, and then we became the distributor after that.
The team, who's the team?
Eduardo Verástegui,
Oh, he did.
the producer.
Straight up. Did he raise money to, I don't know if that's public data.
Yeah. And he worked with Disney for like a year and a half trying to get it out, to negotiate to get it out of there.
I love this.
Fox News, very, very QAnon. These guys.
20th Century Fox, right?
Yeah, we mentioned this earlier that we have this article from Vox.com. Take a look. This is from like 2 weeks ago. Sound of Freedom wants to raise awareness about child trafficking. Here's what it's really doing. Oh, what it's really doing. I love this. Let me just do a quick search.
Fox used to be
Take a look. It says
FOQS.
That extremism is at least as dark and dangerous as the very thing Sound of Freedom wants to combat. The crazy thing about it is like
that Fox made it.
Well, Fox made it, and I compare it to Law and Order SVU. There's no evil government actors snatching kids under their arms and like running out of a pizza restaurant or anything like that. It's a law enforcement story.
That Disney wanted at one point.
Right, yes.
When they wanted it, it wasn't extreme.
They bought it.
But when they don't have it anymore, it is extreme. I mean, I think what you're doing with moving to sort of creating culture through the marketplace is really interesting. In some ways, it reminds me of what Matt Gaetz did, saying, Jack Smith, the prosecutor that's investigating Trump, he just was like, well, you can't have any more money. This isn't worth it. This is craziness. And I think in some way, really, that's ultimately, I mean, we talk about a lot with like Public Square. The dollar is one way to leverage power against these institutions. So internally, Republicans who are in Congress could theoretically cut off some of these investigations if they cut off DOJ funding.
money.
And if you guys are able to say, like, we know people who are willing to spend money for entertainment that they feel represents them, and we make the entertainment, then we're able to circulate this money through people who have the values. And I find that really interesting.
Well, we also learned, like, I went to CinemaCon this year. CinemaCon is where all the studios come to talk to the theaters. So the exhibitors are the theaters, and those are mainstream Americans. These are 3,000 plus owners of theaters all across this country, and they're just normal, everyday, middle-class heartland Americans. And so the studios come in, and at CinemaCon, it's the most bizarre experience where you've got these middle American theater owners, and then you got these studios that are coming out of their bubble, and then they're just trying to sell their content to the theater owners. And so they're kind of like, I don't. Is
there like a cultural difference?
They don't really like. There's this there's
There's
this,
there's an almost adversarial
relationship,
but at the
Yeah.
same time, they're sitting there whining and dining the theaters, trying to just say, okay, we have to work with you.
But they look down on them,
I
I
was
assume.
walking around with this shirt on, this Angel shirt, and I couldn't make it down the hallway without 5-6 different theater owners just stopping and being like, "Hey." They pull out a cross and they're like, "I'm on your side."
Like, why are you whispering?
Keep going. And I'm like, "Thank you." But the amount of support from the theaters made us realize there's just this realization: as long as we can make it economically viable for alternative content to go to the theaters, they will pick that content. They'll support it.
Yeah.
And that's how the money's made.
Listen
It's
to
the
this.
Theaters.
July 3rd, we had 2,634 theaters for Sound of Freedom. July 7th, 2,852. July 14th, 3,265. July 21st, 2,285. July 28th, which is coming tomorrow. What day are we?
Tomorrow,
It's this Friday.
28th.
3,411. This is like the first movie
That's
I've ever heard
expanded.
of that has expanded the number of theaters for 4 Fridays straight.
That's
You may have
wild.
misread the number. I misheard you. I thought the third number you read was a 2,000, but it was
It was 3,285.
and then up to 36.
So it went from 3,265 to 85 to 3,411.
I've noticed it like consciously the way it's expanding too.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like caught fire, like
Yeah.
psychological fire.
Well,
Yes.
listen to this stat. This is just on a Reddit thread. Sound of Freedom has a shot at 27 straight days over $3 million. Even Endgame didn't do that. And I believe only a single-digit number of movies have done that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And everybody's like, Titanic didn't do it. They made it only to 19 days. I'd be interested to know what the record is. That's just a Reddit thread.
Are tickets more expensive? Because inflation obviously has got to be playing a role.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much are they now?
So the average ticket price is
$11
like $11.80 or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, and if you go back to like Passion of the Christ, it was somewhere
Seven
$7 or $8.
change.
Yeah,
7 and
okay.
change.
So-
Sound of Freedom was number 2 for the July 14th to 20th.
Yes. And
Yes.
but
the week.
I think we've had 4 or 5 days that we've been number 1. And but one other thing that's different is that they've factored all the theaters to do these lounge chairs.
I love it. That's what we had.
And so it's
at
actually
Regal, yeah.
it's changed. Even though the ticket price has gone up, your actual number of seats are smaller, and so it's kind of changed the economic environment
Oh,
of,
interesting.
of the theaters.
Yeah.
Sound of Freedom's got several days. July 4th, it was number 1. July 10th and 11th was number 1. And July 20th, it was number 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's
And growing.
Yes.
You mentioned crowdfunding because Angel Studios has a crowdfunding model. You say 100,000 angel investors that come in and they vote on what. Do you ever find that causes problems, like chaos within the structure of the organism?
So far, what we've seen is this incredible aptitude for choosing a hit. Like our very first theatrical release was called His Only Son. It was this little $250,000 film. Nobody would have guessed to take this film to theaters. Like you would not. This is not the kind of film you'd take to theaters. It doesn't have a big enough budget. Doesn't have any named people.
First-time
It doesn't have any
director.
first-time director. Like this film shouldn't have gone to
The main
theaters.
actor's from Lebanon. The main actress is from Iran, and the boy who plays Abraham Isaac, he's from Israel. Like they're just no-namers that are.
But it did well.
But we got the guild score and we're like, whoa. And then we put it out there for crowdfunding and it raised $1.25 million in 100 hours. And we were expecting to raise $400,000 in 30 days. And we're just like, okay, we got to lean into this because what the guild is saying. And then it hit number 3 in the box office against some huge tent poles.
But I would assume this is one of the things that maybe Hollywood is forgetting is important. Like you guys are talking to actual people who are interested in a movie, who would put their money behind movies and saying, what do you want to see? Whereas Hollywood has their own enclave of people and they're asking each other. It's such an echo chamber. How could you get accurate feedback on what a good movie would be?
Yeah.
Yes.
You said the guild. Is the guild the small percentage of the total crowdfunders? Who's
So
the guild?
anybody who has invested in a previous project can be a member of the guild. And those guys are the ones who decide the future of Angels Productions.
There's about 100,000 people in the Angel Guild, And the idea here is that they replace the Hollywood gatekeepers. Hollywood's awesome. All the creators, the craftsmen in Hollywood, they're great. The gatekeepers are the problem. And they're the ones who decide, like, this, it has to have this much diversity figure, or this much LGBTQ, it has to have this much nudity, this many sex scenes, whatever. They're the ones just like deciding these things for the content creators. And so the filmmakers are, they kind of move either direction, but the gatekeepers are holding the grounds. And so the Angel Guild is a replacement of the Hollywood gatekeepers. And so we get 60 filmmakers a week submitting to Angel Studios. And then the guild goes through and votes on that content, and about 95% of it fails, and 5% gets through
To the next step.
Yep, to the next step.
When someone submits, they submit. Oh yeah, the torch.
The torch. Yeah.
So they'll submit like a 5-minute short film,
Or
a
or
prototype.
or in the case of Sound of Freedom, they submitted the entire film. Right.
Okay.
His only son. Anything
Only
that's going
Son.
to theaters has to be the whole film.
Anecdotally, before the show, you guys were telling me the torch you call is like this prototype 5-minute piece or whatever, full film. So technically, Sound of Freedom was a torch. It's from the Statue of Liberty's torch. I didn't know that the Statue of Liberty was crowdfunded.
Yes.
By French people.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah. So Frederick Bartholdi couldn't get any governments to fund the Statue of Liberty. And he had this dream of creating the biggest piece of art.
And we all know artists will try to get their budget from wherever they can.
Yes, that's right. They'll go anywhere to get their budget. But he wanted to create the biggest piece of art around the biggest idea in the world. And he first tried the Suez Canal before he'd visited America. And he got shot down. He visits America, and he decides this is the biggest idea. America is. So he goes back. He gets the president of the United States to say, I think that's a great idea. Takes back a letter, because the president didn't offer him any money. I mean, even the Washington Monument was crowdfunded. I don't know if you knew that, but because the government wouldn't pay for stuff like that back then. And they
How times have changed.
They had principles. So he goes back to France, and he raises just enough money to build the torch and a hand, and he sets it up in the parks, and he takes people up in the top of the torch, and he takes black and white pictures of them. There's a whole bunch of them online. You can see this black and white pictures of this torch, and he raised $14 million in today's money over a decade.
He'd give out little pins, little things.
It was the first Kickstarter campaign,
Yes.
first crowdfunding campaign.
Yep.
And he spends a decade and he builds it. So we just modeled the entire brand of our company. As we have torches, which are the filmmakers. Even like every year we do what are called the Torch Awards, where we actually give away a copper replica of the torch of the Statue of Liberty to filmmakers. So there's the idea is around the original crowdfunding campaign.
I think a lot of the problems in today's society could be solved with crowdfunding. A lot of like roads, you're really worried about the roads, don't wait for the government, set up, but we just need maybe some organization for it, like an app or something where you can like locally send some tax money.
Yeah. And what happens is, as soon as you engage the crowd, like when we raise the smartest money we can raise for advertising is from the crowd, because everybody comes in, they maybe throw $50 at it or $20 or whatever. And then they go out and they drag all their neighbors into the theaters. So if you get 7,000, 10,000 people crowdfunding a project, you've got an army of 10,000 people out dragging everybody they know into those theaters to try to make that movie profitable.
Of the 100,000 angel investors that you currently have, do they all invest in every movie?
No, they don't all invest. Every single movie we bring on a giant chunk of new people, over half.
How do people sign up to invest?
Invest.angel.com is where the different projects go up to raise money.
And there's a link there at angel.com.
Yeah.
So.
Is it the same way for writers and stuff that want to submit, like as if you need another 1,000 submissions?
So we're not currently set up to take scripts. We only can take torches, only projects that show a vision for what you're trying to create. But there's also a link on there for the Angel Accelerator Fund, and they actually they partner with some filmmakers to help create torches.
What's it called? The
Angel Accelerator Fund.
And they'll help people that don't have money but have a great idea or like a really great.
They're going to have to bring their own money. Like they match torch. Like if a torch cost $100,000, they might put up 50, and then the torch would be. Then the filmmaker would have to bring 50.
Let's talk about winning the culture war.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons Sound of Freedom is so important is making $130 million several days at number one, proving that outside, as you mentioned, the gatekeepers, there is a path towards success.
Yes.
Younger people need to be able to look at the stuff that we're creating and say, there is another way to succeed. You don't have to go through the corrupt machine. We have this news story that I think plays into this. Bud Light Brewery is laying off hundreds of U.S. workers. Well, I'm kind of sad for these people, but at the same time, if you've been working at Bud Light, where over the past 4 months this controversy has been going on, you had to know this was coming. Not only that, but several bottling plants had already laid off hundreds of people. So y'all should look, if you work for Bud Light, I would only say I would be surprised if you were not trying to find another job because they are firing people. But this is a sign that the old guard and the gatekeepers are failing. They are losing out. Get woke, go broke. And we're starting to see the inverse with Sound of Freedom, for instance. There is an inverse to get woke, go broke starting to emerge, and that is don't be woke, make money, or however you'd phrase it. I don't know. Someone can come up with something catchier.
Stay based, get laced.
Get laced?
No, thank you.
Rain.
Get paid? I don't know. Yeah, something like
We'll
that.
let the chat take care of
Stay
this.
Yeah,
based.
chat, guys, think of something that's the inverse of this because this is what we're seeing. Now, we were just talking about, Donald Trump is getting indicted. And I was saying this earlier. People are like, what do we do? How do we win? We're watching this corruption. I'm like, they're going the wrong route. Going this procedural route to try and win a culture war is a losing battle. Yeah. And we should all know this because it's what Republicans were doing in 2016. Democrats were going to the media. They're going to TV. They were lying, cheating, and stealing. They were pushing false narratives, Russiagate, etc., to shape the minds of individuals in this country. They controlled institutions. They were censoring information on media. They knew culture comes first, then politics. Now what do you have? You have the Biden DOJ protecting Hunter Biden with this insane plea agreement they tried giving him, indicting Donald Trump again, and we got SBF getting his charges dropped. Not all of them, but how convenient. You give Democrats money, you don't go to jail, I guess. But I don't think that's going to play very well because if the influence that is generated in culture is coming from the likes of Angel Studios, if the products they're buying are no longer Bud Light, if they're not watching Fox News even or CNN anymore, they're coming to other places.
Yeah, it's not like they just stopped.
Right, exactly.
They're going somewhere else.
Exactly. And that means eventually Democrats aren't going to be able to pull this stuff off. They're going to slowly start losing political power because they're trying to win by writing laws or utilizing government, which I've been saying a long time doesn't work. Republicans keep trying to do that. Doesn't work. Great example. You've got on the books laws preventing adults from engaging in lewd and lascivious acts with children. These laws have been on the books forever. West Virginia, for instance, has it plain as day. Yet the police allow children to be part of lewd and lascivious shows at adult venues, child drag performances, all ages drag shows that are explicit.
Because the law has to be enforced.
The police won't enforce it, though, because of the culture. Because we're at a point, or we were, where you have these, you had this show where it said it's not going to lick itself and there's kids there and the cops go, I'm not getting involved in this. Even though it is illegal, discernibly codified, the cops won't do anything about it because the culture is fractured and there's no clear winner. The police are only going to do what they think the majority would support. If Sound of Freedom is winning, if Angel Studios is winning, if shows like ours, if Cast Brew Coffee is winning, if Bud Light is failing, eventually people are going to say, I'm here to be on the winning side. Law enforcement's going to come out and be like, we're going to go arrest the person breaking the law. It's illegal for unmarried women to skydive in Florida on Sunday. Is a cop going to arrest a woman who skydives on Sunday? Of course not. Why? It's illegal because the law actually doesn't matter. What matters is what police are willing to enforce. So if we win the culture war, then the police are going to enforce what the people want enforced.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, the part of government is the consent of the people, right? So if you disagree with law, not only can you fight it, but also your town can start to say, like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, there are all kinds of old laws on the books. The skydiving in Florida one might be an example. of things that we would not allow or accept. I believe there's a town in Connecticut where the husband's allowed to beat his wife on the town hall steps during the day, and that never got repealed. It's just there.
Wow.
Now, if this happened, we would all be appalled. Like, we know some things are wrong, and I can't say why that one was on the books ever, but so much of what we do is just choosing to say, like, I'm not going to give into this anymore. And again, I think it's important to go back to the fact that for a long time, you know, you'd get these things, companies doing something you didn't agree with, but there were no alternatives, right? Like, I remember, I can't even remember, like, if you wanted to boycott a shoe company, well, that shoe company is also owned by this company that's also doing this. And like, we saw this a little bit with Bud Light, that, you know, some people were like, oh, I'll buy this one. And it actually is all under the Anheuser-Busch umbrella. So maybe we give credit to the internet here for being active and alerting people to sort of the network of companies. But it is really interesting to see people actively seeking out change and reviewing like what they're being told to do and saying, I don't want to anymore.
I think it happens. It doesn't happen at once, too. It'll happen like probably like a 7-year lag. You make a movie that changes like a 9-year-old's mind. And then when they're 16, that's when the power begins to shift.
Yes. Absolutely.
Do you guys see that with your own kids?
Well, yeah, totally. And that's the reason that we started this, is because we could see that this was a long game, right? Like, the way that we were going to actually change the world for our children and for their children was by not by going and coming here to DC and lobbying and fighting over red and blue politics, but it was just in our home with our kids, telling really great stories that help them understand true principles.
When the Dark Knight Rises came out, I was at CPAC that year or sometime around there, and I remember sitting in on this panel discussion and them saying, you know, if you're conservative and you want your children who are interested in politics to make a difference, you actually shouldn't send them to DC, you should send them to Hollywood. And I wish I could give credit to whoever said that. I've forgotten the panelist's name at this point. But it's interesting because they're basically making the point 10 years ago, and you guys said Angel was founded in 2013, that you guys ultimately proved, which is like, if you want to redirect culture, you need people who have those values in a position to make that content. I mean, it's we know a lot of people who are creative and who have ideas, but I don't remember who was on the show talking about the infrastructure behind movie production, like all the things you need to rent and the film equipment. Like, there has to be stepping stones to build this, and ultimately you guys have proven redirecting the energy is the
And
important
Steve
thing.
Jobs says that the most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. Yeah, that he's famous for that statement. And you can see this with Sound of Freedom. Alejandro Monteverde goes, and Mexican guy, grew up, was affected by cartels.
His dad and his brother were murdered
by a cartel, and he builds this movie and this story to help unite and to fight this issue. And Neil was just telling me last night that some bill in, what state was it?
I think it was Wisconsin
or something, like a local legislator put up a bill that's called the Sound of Freedom bill, and they're changing laws because of this film. And
there was a law enforcement officer down in Texas who, after watching the film, started classes in their community, and they're teaching teenage girls what signs to look for, how pedophiles attack through social media.
Those classes are happening all over, like
classic
churches,
QAnon, right-wing extremism, just raging
Protect
on.
your family, yeah. I
Look
saw
out
that
for predators, crazy stuff.
they showed it at Congress, I think, Sound of Freedom yesterday, is it?
Tuesday night.
Yeah,
night?
and
Yeah, it
both
was
sides showed
bipartisan.
up.
Donald Trump's made a comment that he wants to give traffickers the death penalty, women as well as men. I wonder, I mean,
That's Donald's idea.
Yeah, I was like, geez, why does he keep jumping to the death penalty? I don't want to derail if you guys don't want to talk about Big D. I mean,
here, look, traffickers, people that rape kids and sell them probably deserve death. But the death penalty, I think the statistics are they get it wrong like 4% of the time. Like
Too much.
4 out of 100 people
Yeah.
are innocent. And so it's not a practical solution, in my opinion.
I completely
That's my
agree.
opinion. I don't
agree.
see, like, I believe they deserve it. But if you can't practically make that happen without.
Like, if you were trying to protect a kid who is about to be attacked by someone, use whatever force you can to save the life of that child from the person committing the crime, right?
Yep.
If we've captured someone and Kamala Harris walks up to me and says, see that guy over there, he deserves death, I'm going to be like, I don't trust you, lady. I mean, that guy may be evil for sure, but
Yeah.
man, I'm not going to sign off on Kamala Harris's request. I know she's the worst example I can think of, when it comes to who would be advocating for the death penalty.
But once the power's there, you got to
It's gonna
think
be
of
her.
the worst person.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I am grateful that Trump is entering the discussion. It shows how powerful this movie has been, that Donald Trump is entering that discussion and participating.
And he had his own screening, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't believe, like, it's not just Republicans that are asking for screeners of this movie. Like, everybody's asking
else?
for
Name
screeners.
names.
No, look.
I want to know.
There are leftist publications that are saying QAnon and stuff. The Guardian did it, but the corporate press critic reviews are still what, like 75%?
Yeah, I think
better?
it's down to 70 now. It just
they're-
slowly gets chipped away at. But there are people on both sides of the aisle that are very powerful, and state leaders all over the world, like asking to see this. For example, tomorrow we're flying to El Salvador.
Yeah.
And we are meeting with
Bukele's
Oh,
to
nice.
premiere the film.
But
Oh, that's fantastic.
but
He's great.
he's public. I can say that one. But there are
who else?
Name
them all.
you would be amazed, and I'm hoping that some of them, when they watch it, because they're watching it to
And we're
see.
talking, not that they're going to be on this live stream, but if they are, or somebody who is, we are hoping that one of them will speak up.
Speak up. Like just stop this ridiculousness. Everybody who's seen this movie knows it has nothing to do with politics and it has nothing to do with conspiracy theories.
To be the most bipartisan issue, stopping child trafficking.
And it's just a true story.
But this is what I keep saying. Law and Order SVU is on the air for 20 some odd years. I think it's still on the air, right?
yeah.
It's a very, very popular show about law enforcement trying to protect victims of sexual abuse. You guys acquired a movie and distribute it, and they're so desperate to attack it. It's insane.
Yeah, but I think you're hitting a point here. And Russell Brand, when he covered Sound of Freedom, he covers this point. I think there's like I've been just racking my mind. Why on earth is everybody is the left attacking this so hard, specifically the left? And I came up with 4 theories. The first one is Russell Brand's, which I didn't come up with. He came up with it. He just said, this is a model coming out of left field. It's completely bypassing all the Hollywood gatekeepers. They hate it. And they hate it so much that they hate this model and the fact they can't control it because they have their oligopoly, that they would rather attack the model with these conspiracy theories and just forget about the fact that the message. Number 2, there's groups of people who are so partisan that when the dog whistles come out, they just say, my team's on this side.
So therefore I can't watch it.
Yeah, there's a cognitive dissonance where they're not weighing, this is millions of kids being trafficked versus my partisan politics.
So I'll address that, right? Many people complain about Chris Evans' politics because he goes on Twitter and he says woke stuff. He's in the movie Knives Out. I can separate art from the artist. I thought Knives Out was great. I think
great movie.
Ryan Johnson also has questionable statements, but I thought Knives Out was good. I actually liked how he incorporated the politics into it. They can't seem, these tribalists you're referring to can't seem to do that.
They can't do it. They can't separate it. And then the third one is where you get a little more controversial, but it's like you've got a $150 billion industry. These there's cartels that are child trafficking cartels, and they've got their talking points, and that journalists are inadvertently grabbing these talking points, probably because of 1 or 2, but they're grabbing cartel talking points to try to downplay how significant of a problem this is. And number 3 is number 4 is they're just all in it. Like they're all in it together, and there's just, and so it probably is Russell Brand's got it first, and it cascades down to the bottom one. The evil, just everybody, all these people are evil, but it's most likely economics driving it, partisanism driving it, and then the other 2 are probably smaller ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think the partisan one is so true. Especially if you're getting people who are like, like you were saying with the theater owners who hold up their crosses to you in secret, like these people being like, I am against child trafficking, but I don't want to say it too loud. That's a little weird, but I guess if that's your team's line, I don't know.
I identify with Russell's idea that it's economic warfare, essentially, or like they don't like the model of coming in from the outside and disrupting the Hollywood model. That's
and the
terrifying.
kids are just a side.
Yeah,
There was
wanna-
that news anchor who was like, it's not as much of a crisis as you think. And it was like,
Did you give your 4th reason yet already? Or
Yeah, 4th is just that they're all in it.
Combination of the 3.
They're
Right.
all in it. They're all evil. They're all part of the cartels. That's the one the internet loves.
But I don't even think Seamus Coughlin has a cartoon on Freedom Tunes that makes the joke perfectly. Okay, I'm going to spoil it for you guys because I need to make the point, but it's two Hollywood guys being like, oh, this Sound of Freedom, what is going on with this? It's succeeding. They'll never change my mind. They go to see the film. They're crying and weeping as they watch it. And they're like, and as they're leaving, they're like, I never knew the suffering and everything they went through to bring us the children. You get the point. We talk about how they're upset because they're the gatekeepers and they're mad that you guys are basically taken over. But I think there's a component of we've known for a long time. Because there's I think both Corys.
Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Did they both come out and talk about it?
I think so. I mean, Feldman definitely is vocally adamant.
Yeah, and then you got,
Elijah Woods talked about this.
But then you also have just the general abuse of, we all know the story of Harvey and everything he did.
I have a friend that lives in LA and she's been in this world for a long time. And when Harvey finally went in, she was just like, we've known this for forever. Everybody's known it.
Seth MacFarlane made the joke.
Everybody knew.
Seth MacFarlane made the joke on some award show. Then you also have Stewie Griffin in an episode of Family Guy running through the mall saying, help, help, I've escaped Kevin Spacey's basement. Like, people in Hollywood know what's going on there. So I'm gonna say the tribal partisan thing, I think, makes sense because we've had people come on and sit at the studio, like the Culture War, for instance, and outright defend books. We have these books here where they're showing graphic images of adult activities to kids and say, it's a good book. And I'm just like, that's the most insane thing ever. Like, have you no principles? They don't. But I really do think Hollywood's got pedos who are really pissed off that you guys put out a film. I really do think that one of the reasons Disney did not want to run this is because there's high up people who are like, the last thing we want is people focusing on this as a cultural issue. There's no reason for Disney not to publish this film. They had it. It was basically free. They had bought it already. They could have put it straight to DVD or put it on Amazon and made a couple $100,000 overnight. But they decided to shut it down. Something doesn't add up with that. Because if the question was gatekeeping, they could have just put it on Amazon. They could have put it on Disney Plus. Hey, here's another offering. But for some reason, they said no one should see this movie. That's weird. And then we talked about with when we had Tim here and Eduardo. Is it Edward or Eduardo?
Eduardo. And Tim Ballard.
When we had him here, he was mentioning that there was going to be a companion documentary that they were supposed to make. And it was because they didn't want to do that, they released the rights to the film. So Disney's looking at it like, we're going to have to release this film because of a contract. And we're going to have to make a documentary about it. I think there are people who are high up who have certain predilections who are like, we don't want two films. So what's your win scenario? Pass it off so just a film comes out, hope it fails, and don't make the documentary. Your worst case scenario is you have to make the documentary and the film comes out. So they actually are looking at it like, we may lose this, but we don't take as much collateral damage in terms of their predilections and what they don't want people talking about.
I think it's possible. I want to give some benefit of the doubt that maybe they just thought this isn't
a brand fit.
I don't have.
You guys are so nice.
But I
mean, technically, you're right.
Look, I have every reason to hate Disney. They made my life miserable for 4.5 years. But there is. I think I'd like to leave that open.
Yeah, I think they are against child trafficking. Which is kind of an interesting brand to have.
Matt Kibbe, I was talking to him the other day, and he said maybe it's like Baptist and bootleggers, where you've got the one side, they're kind of almost like a collaboration happening without them even realizing that they're collaborating. One's actually against it and one's for it, but they're actually making it happen together. And he's like, it kind of reminds him of that in some ways. There's a parallel there.
I got it pulled up right here. Law & Order SVU has been on the air for 24 years. Whew. It is one of the most popular television shows of all time. So there's 2 points to be made there. Why Disney would look at a well-made movie, which they had already and could just literally upload to Disney Plus and be like, have a nice day. They have that. They could release it, allowing them to be in a similar space. People like the show, clearly. Why would they not do it?
Oh, were you going to answer? I have a follow-up question.
So we were talking to John Irwin because he said this movie came across his desk at Lionsgate, and
he was pushing for it.
He was pushing for it. He saw the potential for the movie, but he said all the people that we launched through, they are the elite. They are the power players. They are the tastemakers, and the leaders don't want to touch the film. We didn't know how to get it out the door.
He said they're all calling him now, being like,
Yeah, everybody's like, why didn't we take that? But then he said, when I saw you guys got it, I was like, that was the perfect match because Angel has a direct connection to the people, and the people will care about this issue, and they will be able to rise it to the level that the tastemakers pay attention to it, and the leaders have to pay attention to it. And so that's exactly what happened.
When Disney sold it back or to you guys, is it public how much they sold it for?
they sold it to Eduardo.
They sold it to
sold to Eduardo.
Eduardo.
I think they released it to him, didn't they?
Eduardo
they
released
sold
the
it.
number of what he's got into the film. It's $14.5 million. He
I
released
see.
that
I don't know
publicly.
the exact details
Okay.
of the rest of
Yep.
what goes into that
Interesting.
14 and a
Okay,
half.
but roughly he up to 14 million he paid to Disney to get it, and maybe Disney thought they weren't going to get 14 million putting it on Disney Plus, so they're just better off unloading it for a small dose of
possible.
cash.
I don't want. I just
can't speculate. Yeah,
Yeah.
I say what you're thinking.
yeah.
I want to pull up this video. We have this video. Ian Miles Chong posted it. It says, "This is what's popular on TikTok. Meanwhile, in China, kids are learning about theoretical physics, practical woodworking, and astronomy on Douyin, which is their
Their version of TikTok.
Right.
Yeah.
This video is disturbing. It's on par with the NPC girls. You guys have seen that stuff where there's like ice cream so
I
good or
just
whatever.
saw it the other day, and I was so confused by it. My wife and we watched it like 7 times, and we're sitting there going to bed, and we're watching it over and over again. I'm like, what are they doing? And by the end, we just
You and everyone else.
This-
whose brains
we
are
just-
rotting
I
on
wanna-
TikTok.
I wanna-
I won't let
gave up.
myself watch
I want
it.
to play this
gave
video.
up.
I got to play this video. It's 23 seconds, and you'll get a general idea. I don't want it to be too loud, but here we go. Oh, you want to hit the audio?
I mean, guys, I mean.
For those that are just listening, it is a guy who's crying and screaming and trying to stack nuts, like hardware nuts.
Lug nuts or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think those are lug nuts necessarily, just hardware nuts. And it's deranged.
Yeah, if you
It
let
is
it-
absolutely deranged content.
If you let it roll for a second longer, he makes this weird like, yeah. That's why he's popular. Is that face and that sound and stuff. It's
So this is
he looks
what
possessed.
this is what
You
kids
feel,
are watching.
You feel your mind disorganized as you watch it.
This
Yeah.
is what. So I'll throw it back to you guys. Are you guys familiar with ElsaGate? YouTube started promoting a whole bunch of these videos of Elsa, Spider-Man, and the Joker running around doing shenanigans. It started devolving into extremely psychotic content where there were cartoons of children drinking out of urinals and consuming feces.
Like 2013 or something.
This is the algorithm at the time. I think this was YouTube. It was an accident.
Yeah.
YouTube just had an algorithm that recommended what got clicked the most. They didn't really think about it. And it was being exploited. And people were just doing keyword searches and then making whatever was getting the most clicks. And it turned into this nightmare scenario. I think with TikTok, you look at this video, pull this clip back up. So I want people who are watching to see this guy's face. TikTok is promoting this stuff because I think they figured out, hey, ElsaGate is destroying the fabric of the United States and the West because the children who watch that are going to have psychological problems and trauma later in life.
Yeah.
This is very much the same thing, as are the NPC girls. There were already stories about, first, young girls facing extreme depression because of Instagram. But now you have stories of young girls developing Tourette's syndrome because they would watch a popular influencer with Tourette's, start imitating the person, and then start developing involuntary tics in their communication style because this is social development for young people. I think TikTok, it's my personal opinion, promotes this stuff in the algorithm because it is gutting and destroying the fabric of our young people. This is another reason why I think it's so extremely important. One, you guys share, tell your friends to go see movies like Sound of Freedom, but all the other stuff that Angel Studios has coming out. You've got, what's that new, there's another movie you got coming out. You got Cabrini. but
Cabrini
The
coming
Shift,
out next
I
year.
think.
The Shift is coming out in December.
Oh, that
Cabrini
looks
looks
cool.
really good.
There's one coming out in October called After Death.
Oh, cool.
Dude, the
When's
shift looks
Cabrini
nuts.
yeah, the shift looks good.
Shift is awesome.
I really want to see Cabrini. That trailer looks really amazing. And John Lithgow's in it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
John
like
Lithgow, and
him.
it's the same director as Sound of Freedom. It's Alejandro.
Ooh. Oh,
That's
wonderful,
amazing.
wonderful.
And it's his best work yet. in my
It
opinion.
looks really good.
My wife and I screened it, and my wife came away and she said top 5 movie of all time for me.
Wow.
My daughters say
I
it's
wanna
their
see
favorite
it.
movie too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
You know,
once we have screeners, we'll let you.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I don't want to watch a screener. I watch in theaters.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll let you, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so, like-
we'll get you in the theater when it's time.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a secret ever. With Sound of Freedom, you know, someone reached out to me and said like, "Hey, we got a screener. We want you to see the film." I was like, "I'm going to theaters, man."
I like you. That's so much better.
Yeah, but that's the theater's the experience.
Yeah. That's
right.
Especially there with your friends, and afterwards we're walking out, we're talking about the parts we liked and didn't
and
like.
not just that. The theater is this. It's a communal experience. Everybody goes in. There. Do you guys know who Andrew Peterson is?
No.
Who wrote the Wingfeather Saga? Great
Nashville.
author, amazing author from Nashville, musician, pretty big name. But he has a blog called The Rabbit Room, and on that blog they published. It's a group of people that write on it. They wrote a blog post called The Sacrament of Cinema. And in it explains, and this is what shifted my gears on why movie theaters are hanging on and why I think that they have a bright future, is he compares the sacrament when you go to church and you let go of everything and you get into the exact same experience as everybody around you and you focus on this one thing which represents Jesus Christ. And you focus, and you take the sacrament. When you go to the theater, you're surrendering all your screens, all the social media, and you're allowing yourself to be enveloped in an experience that director built for you and crafted for you, and then immerse yourself, and there's no pause button, and you're all together. And so you have this incredible experience, and it can be life-changing. And I think that people are hungry to get away from the social screens, and that the easiest, most simple way to do that is to head to the cinema and actually
Shut it all down.
shut everything down. And it's healthy for us right now, where we're overstimulated.
So
It almost sounds weird because it used to be the stimulation spot, but this is actually, I think it's a way to shut things off.
I do too.
the good news is, so when we look at this video and this guy is screeching and making nonsense content, which is going to traumatize kids, they're going to grow up and they will imitate. Are they going to be building spaceships? Are they going to be astronauts? Are they going to be even race car drivers? No, they're going to be saying insane things or acting like NPCs and saying ice cream's so good. But we're winning. One, obviously, you guys are here. We're talking about Angel Studios, all the projects you have. But along with this story is Dylan Mulvaney announcing a stepping back from producing content because only 50% of Americans like me, Dylan says. And so Mulvaney will be slowing down content. This is what happens when people speak up for what they believe in, when they say, rather sternly but politely, Dylan Mulvaney has bad content, which is bad for kids, promoting alcohol to kids. People want to talk about gender ideology. I'm like, absolutely. But also, the scandal starts with Dylan promoting booze to children on TikTok. Like, that was the whole thing. Grabbing all the beer cans, cracking them open, and being like, March Madness, drink beer. And the average audience of TikTok is under 21. These are not good things. So when we see this stuff, we complain about TikTok. Yes, there are issues with a lot of people using the platform. TikTok banned us, for instance, for no reason. Little sour grapes there, I suppose. For no reason, we're removed. We can't even express our opinions. But I think this is what leads me to believe ultimately they're trying to influence young people in ways that destroy their lives. When we look at Sound of Freedom, when we look at, Angel Studios, you guys are slaying it. It's crazy, the expansive growth. We may not have control of all the institutions. I have people say, how can you claim we're winning if Hollywood is owned by the left, if television is owned by the left? I'm like,
The theaters, one of my points was theaters are not owned by the left.
But what I'm saying is winning doesn't mean owning everything. Winning doesn't mean you won.
Right.
Winning means you are gaining the territory in the conflict.
That's right.
And we are winning.
That's right.
What you said about the theater is so true. It's epically true. It's been true for thousands of years. Beyond cinema, cinema is a relatively new aspect of theater, but the theater, since the Greeks,
It's a very local
BC,
thing. It's a
yeah.
local thing. It's not a global thing.
People vibrate together in the local community. That's the
Yep.
ticket. I had a dude when I saw Sound of Freedom to my left that was like breathing super heavy. He wasn't very healthy. He was drinking his Diet Coke or whatever he's drinking, and but I have love for that man. It made that experience unique. It was in my ear and it was a little distracting, but at the same time, I'll never forget it. I'll remember that forever, that moment. And I love that guy. I just remember that guy. And it was cool to be there with him.
Or the fact that I think we might be seeing as much as 10% of showings of Sound of Freedom having standing ovations.
And there's
Pretty cool.
showings where complete strangers hug each other.
Yes, this isn't an uncommon report.
I think also
You can't have that at home.
Yeah, since COVID has basically died down, the madness around COVID, people want to go out and socialize again. And the cinema is the place.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
You hear that, AMC?
I'll say it. Yeah, I gotta say it every time. The intro of Sound of Freedom is just so good.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's remarkable to me that they walked away from that. That they're like, how do you not watch that and be like, wow,
This is an amazing film.
yeah, just the intro, man.
Yeah.
Really well done.
We had a super chat from earlier. Someone suggested that you guys do, or somebody does, a movie about the Statue of Liberty. That story about the Statue of
Oh,
Liberty.
that would be really fun.
That'd be cool.
I mean, the trailer.
We are working right now. Probably the first piece of it will be done next year.
Jordan should be talking about this part. Founders.
Yeah. We're building a series on the founding of America and trying to
That's
build an
cool.
entire. This is so
Game of Thrones
undertold.
style.
Yes, this is so undertold. Game of Thrones with a moral compass, but
Of course.
but this is such an undertold story. Think about how many movies. You know, The Patriot, and then you know like a bazillion documentaries.
Dude, The Patriot is like one
John
of my
Adams.
favorite movies of all time.
The Patriot is such a good
You got
movie.
John Adams and The Patriot. That's about.
You know
that's
that-
about it,
And there's that
right?
musical,
Like in the- in-
1776. That was pretty good.
In the
Yeah.
UK, they complained
But there's
about the
nothing
depiction
major.
of the British in The Patriot. Because you get
cares?
the
Not
bad
your
guy
country.
like killing children, and they're like, "Oh, how dare you!"
It's anti-British.
Also, you
Yeah,
guys
it's
make your own. You guys
it's
make your own
anti-white
movie.
colonialism.
You know what I mean? Like, go out there and make your own pro-British movie. I think it's interesting because I watched The Patriot probably way after everyone else, but after it, you're like, yeah, let's hang an American flag. Like, this is great. Like I feel like there is something really positive out of walking out of theater and being like, I feel empowered to do something. I think Sound of Freedom has that effect for a lot of people, even if it's just be more conscious of how they can serve their local community. But like The Patriot makes you want to be like, yeah, it's a good country. This is cool stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is sort of along with the moral hunger in society, some way to feed that. Because videos like this of TikTok of this guy screaming, like that's the equivalent of like fake chemical sugar that we're feeding to our young people. You need to give them more
Yeah.
substantial content for them to feed their minds, their emotions, their souls, things like that. If you have them on the app where there's nothing nutritious, so to speak, there, then of course they wither away.
Yeah,
Like,
this
you
stuff's
can't be
junk food.
surprised.
This stuff's
Exactly.
junk food.
You know what is really interesting? You bring up The Patriot, and that was made by an immigrant, right? Alejandro is an immigrant. Frank Capra, who made a ton of Americana, right? It's a Wonderful Life, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. All these films that helped define our country, made by immigrants, and that's what I love about the cinema, is that it's all about uniting around an idea rather than partisanship or country lines. It's just about uniting around an idea.
Well, and I think it's interesting too because this new study came out saying they're like only 18% of young Americans consider themselves like very patriotic, which is sort of strange. But when we saw periods, and no one quote me on the data here, but when we saw periods of high patriotism, it's when we're in conflict, when we have to pull together with people that we don't know who live in our country. We feel bonded that way. And to your point, like I think, at least in my experience as like a first generation American, immigrants choose to be here and they realize often why. They have a decision, there's a choice, right? There's sort of an act of love in that choice. And I think that in some ways makes it easier to be clear about what you have. When you're born into something, it sometimes becomes easy to be like, meh, not that great, because you don't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
That's right. I was in Poland, and my wife and I, we went to a communist museum. They have a bunch of them, and I was reading. I was just amazing all the artifacts and everything from the USSR that were there, and these Stalin statues and Lenin statues, and then I get out and I'm looking at Google reviews, and there's all these Americans writing these 1-star reviews, and they're just like, it makes communism look really bad.
It was.
They're like, they need to get rid of their bias towards this. And I'm just like, what? No, these are the people who made this museum are alive now, and they lived through it. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so it's just they forget. You're only a generation away from freedom being gone.
Yeah. We need to preserve the. I think about that when it comes to the transgender movement and just transgenderism in general. If we could somehow make a movie that shows someone like going through it, and you can really empathize with the person struggling with their own gender, and then you can kind of see it from the outside of what's happening to them and why they're going through it, that it could remind people in 20 years, like, it's okay to be you. Like, you can, to give young people hope that, like, if you're feeling weird, like, there's a way to.
It's okay to feel weird.
Yeah. And if we don't tell the story, it won't be remembered why it happened in the first place. And then we're doomed to repeat these cycles of like lack of faith or lack of love for self. So I would love to make a movie about that. I would even love to play that character for honest.
Kids need.
I bet you could do a great job at that, Ian.
Kids need stories where they will look up to people,
Yeah.
so that they want to emulate something. You know, I read these stories online. There are these memes where a guy's like, I have a kid. He's kind of dumb. He's 5. And then one day I saw him running around and he said, I'm Spider-Man, or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, the kid saw a movie where the main character, the good guy, Spider-Man, is doing these heroic things, and then the kid imitates that. Mm-hmm. You give positive reinforcement, say, these are the people we like, these are the stories of heroism. Right now what's happening is we've had this period where there's a lot of woke movies that have no clear plot. The main characters are bad guys. Like, even if you look at Captain Marvel's a good example. There's this really great video breakdown of Captain America versus Captain Marvel. Captain America sacrifices himself for his country. He desperately tries to serve his nation, even though he's not fit to do so. He's willing to jump on a grenade to save people. Captain Marvel starts off with her robbing a guy for his clothes.
Right.
And because the guy's on a motorcycle and he goes, you should smile. And then she looks at him and then robs him. Like, apparently they're playing this trope that women should be empowered by stealing like, she's the bad guy. Yeah. They tried defending it saying, well, yeah, she changes later on. And I'm like, if kids watch that and they look up to someone who is mean, nasty, and entitled, they're going to grow up thinking that's the way to be, and we don't want that.
You're going to love Cabrini, because Cabrini is the story of a woman who's a superhero by being a woman. And she... Unapologetically, she's in a battle against the mayor of New York, trying to figure out how to help the poor.
And she's a Catholic nun.
But
she's an entrepreneur who happens to be a Catholic nun as
well. What year does it take place?
It's 18...
Well, she was born in 50...
It's the late 1800s. Late 1800s.
Late 1800s, yep.
So but it's just this beautiful story of a woman being powerful because she's a woman. And I think that what we're seeing is that people are sick and tired of nihilistic movies.
Yeah.
Every single movie ends with everybody's bad. Like, you get to the end of a series that you liked and they just end with everybody sucks, everybody's bad, everybody's evil.
Complicated.
Complicated's fine. But there's no like true like good, evil, black, white hero like that's just missing right now. They're sick of nihilism, and we're trying to offer an antidote to that. Is that stories that amplify light? But go ahead.
Oh, is this? And you're talking about Frances Xavier Cabrini, the woman, the Italian American saint.
Yes,
this is powerful. When
first American saint, not.
She's the very first man or woman.
Man or woman.
Are there more? Are there other ones now?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I had a question. Basically, you said that you and your wife, Jeff, watched that weird TikTok NPC 7 times.
Yep.
And like it's junk food. You also mentioned how it's like junk food. Did you feel like gross after? Did you feel weird afterwards? Because you was talking about how it like discombobulates the soul or whatever. However you.
Oh, I said I feel my mind disorganized as I'm watching it.
Yeah.
So,
it's
was
just
it like,
straight up junk food?
Did you feel it happening as you were watching? Because I've had to shut that video off.
It's like brain junk food. Yeah. It's just like I think TikTok just in general is brain junk food, but.
You know, you guys,
I deleted.
I think it's more like
It's
brain
like crack.
opiates, like drugs.
Oh, yeah. It's
Like,
crack.
I guess you were talking about how movies are complicated.
crack for
Characters
the
become
eyes.
complicated, and how that's kind of a problem. But you were saying it's okay, like complications okay. I wonder about that because I think we do need like to reorient
So
people.
the reason I mentioned that is because one of the reviewers of Sound of Freedom was pointing out how they wish that the character Tim Ballard was more complicated, but it just happens to be a true story. And Alejandro and Rod Barr, they wrote it the best they could based off the stories
And what
in
they
his
knew
life
about Tim Ballard.
and what they knew about Tim, and they wanted something more complex, but clearly audiences just want someone to go and fight evil. They want to see somebody fight evil and know that can happen, and it's giving people courage. And when somebody sees someone else, like if someone sees Cabrini do something, someone sees Tim Ballard do something, they say, wait a second, that wakes up something inside of me.
Yeah, because nobody's perfect. Like
Right.
Tim's probably gotten into arguments with his wife, but you don't want to make people listen to it.
Well, and he actually tells the story because in the film, she says to him, you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids. He said the real story was he called her and said, honey, I have a chance to rescue some kids. The only way I can do it is if I quit my job. We've got 6 kids at home. You know, obviously I can't do that.
He was trying to talk her out.
He was trying to talk her out of it.
Talk himself out of it.
And then she said, I hope I quote this correctly, but she said essentially, can you rescue the kids if you stay? And he says, yes, I think I can. And she said, then you need to quit your job and go do that. And he said, no. You're crazy. We'll lose our pension. All this stuff will happen.
You don't come home until you rescue those kids.
And she says, you don't come home until you rescue those kids. And then he kept fighting it. And then he says, I was kind of a coward. And then she finally said, I will not jeopardize my salvation by you not rescuing those kids. So that was the real story, right? That was, but Alejandro wanted to have the hero be the hero.
But he was sitting there like, I don't have any support from the state, which means maybe I've got like a 50-50 chance
that you become a widow.
Yeah, that's kind of how he was feeling, whether or not that's
without support. I mean,
yeah, if you don't have support, if things go wrong, you're gambling.
You know, he
ended up having support of the Colombian government by the end, but when he made that decision, he had no support.
We were listening to we listened to a lot of classic rock and older songs, and we're hanging out downstairs. We're also we watch some older movies, and I'm just like, where are the modern masterpieces? You know, the everything's formulaic, and I think it's probably fair to say I didn't grow up in the 60s or 70s. They probably had their formulaic garbage music all the same.
Yeah.
And we only remember the greatest works and stuff like that. But man, we're really in need of a movie that will resonate throughout generations. We need to get away from this formulaic stuff. You know, look, superhero movies are entertaining. I'll go see them. But Sound of Freedom was meaning. We need movies like that. Even Groundhog Day, right? Groundhog Day seems simple comedy, but it's so good.
Powerful, right?
Yeah.
Like you walk away from it, you want to be a better person.
Yeah, but it's fun. You know, it's like interesting. It's an interesting idea. Yeah, I want to ice sculpt.
Well, the system has gutted out the place where people can play and take risks.
Right.
They've gone to tent poles. That's where they can invest the money. That's the way that they know how to make the cinemas work, and that's the way they keep the competition out. So nobody can get in and play with risky storytelling. And the Angel model has opened that door again.
Yep. I think that door is wide open now.
Yep.
Is it because you guys now have context? I'm still a little foggy on the whole process. So I know you have the 100,000 investors that pick the thing, they'll fund the thing, and then
we can predict the Rotten Tomatoes audience score based off the guild.
Oh, nice.
And then in addition to that, we have we're using
we can
the
predict the audience Rotten Tomato score, not the critics.
Yeah. The print and advertising marketing budget normally comes from a bank or from a big studio. They write one check. When we're getting the checks from 7,000, 10,000 people, it's the smartest marketing funds that have ever been spent in Hollywood because all those people bring their family and friends. They talk about it. And so it becomes a movement. It becomes something where people have to be part of it. And additionally, like with our history of selling products and making them household names, we had this moment click where we realized that selling seats is no different than selling squatty potties.
And squatty potties, by the way, work.
Yes, they do.
Really.
What's the movie that you guys coming out? You said one October, I think.
October is After Death.
After Death.
Yes.
Yeah,
After Death.
Because I want to go see it.
What's that thing about? Is the trailer out?
I can text you the trailer.
Oh,
or
yeah,
Jordan.
please.
Why don't you get?
Yeah,
him?
Jordan, we haven't talked to you much on the
Jordan
show.
will
You
get you the
just
trailer.
make your younger brother do things in the background over here.
Oh, you guys.
I'll give you my number after the show, Jordan.
Is it weird?
But if I think it would be okay just showing a preview of it. If you guys just want to show a rough cut of the trailer on.
Is it on YouTube?
No, it's
no,
not on
it's
YouTube.
nowhere.
It's on
like
frame.
you would be.
Oh, really?
You'd be the
watching
first
a
one to
draft.
ever
Oh,
show.
okay.
A
How do we get it
draft.
up?
We'd be. Let's just do it.
How do we do it?
You okay
Jordan will
with
hook it up.
It's not actually out yet.
This won't be the final trailer. This is a
After
draft
Death.
of the trailer.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. But
Yeah.
now let's do it.
Oh wow! Sneak preview for all the Timcast IRL viewers.
Well, they send it over. Can I say?
Yeah, where are we sending it?
Jordan, figure it out.
Maybe with Surge.
Yeah,
if
run
he,
over to Surge and get it to him.
What is it like
Maybe-
working with a bunch of your brothers?
Maybe here I'll go
That's
get
a great
it
question.
and then send it to Surge somehow. I send you a link and then maybe you can pull it up. Sorry, Hannah Claire.
That's okay.
Yeah, you know,
we probably need the video file. We need to be able to play it something.
You'll be able to download it.
Is it
Yeah.
online?
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can
online.
download
we'll
it.
figure that out. So having
Because
So there's six
of
brothers.
you?
So they're 9 in our family, 6 boys and 3 girls. And so in the beginning, there were some struggles figuring out how to work together. But after we nailed it and after we figured it out, it feels providential how the skill sets of our family complement each other. And it just so happens that there have been many other companies that have been very successful that are brothers.
The Disney brothers.
Or families.
To
yeah.
lead off.
Roy and Walt. You've got the Warner Brothers. You've
Nolan
got
brothers.
the Koch brothers, the Nolan brothers. You've got the Musk brothers.
Yeah.
And so when family can figure out how to work together well, there's power in that. And so it's really worked out well for us.
And 3 of you are involved, and a cousin, you said, or all 6 of the brothers are involved?
So 4 of us and a cousin started this company. Only 3 of us work here full time. We have another brother who is the showrunner for Tuttle Twins.
Oh, cool.
We have a brother who leads the consulting agency, and then another brother who ended up being the operator over at VidAngel when it got sold. Like the guy who's the CEO of VidAngel hired another brother to do that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So if you have more jobs, you just enlist the rest of your brothers.
No, it sounds super nepotistic, but it's
No, but maybe it's nice because you
No,
guys know each other. I mean, the other
Yeah.
one is the Ringling Brothers, and there were like 400 of. I mean, by that I mean I think there were like 8 Ringling Brothers, and they
Yep.
each did different things and had different skill sets, and that was ultimately
if you're
a huge part of American
if you're
culture.
just kind of cast from the right die, for us the casting comes from just being farm boys in Idaho and a farm family.
That's where you guys grew up in Idaho.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jordan
Potato
over
farms.
here in the background, he left after co-founding with us. He left for a while and he started another company called Cove and grew it to like $100 million company. And then it ended up being our like other team members and our board who decided to hire him back because we didn't feel like we could make that decision. And they hired him back, and it's been great to have, like, he's been like filled out the team and helped the team so much. So it's definitely not nepotistic in unless that can be defined in a good way.
I'm not trying to imply it's nepotistic.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just interesting because some people feel like, you can't work with your spouse, you can't work with your siblings, but obviously.
And it's
you
really
know,
hard to work with family members, but when you can make it work, something happens that other coworkers say, you guys need to just like talk more because you have this like nonverbal communication happening where you know what's happening with each other.
Yeah.
And
Makes it a little harder on
they're
the
like
rest of the
they're
team.
like the 3 brothers that are operating in the company. You guys are like our CEO. You're
Yeah.
like the Elon Musk, the 3 of you together.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us have to figure out what you guys are actually thinking because you don't
You don't need to communicate as clearly because you're.
we don't.
Yeah. That's,
And it works really, really well. We get everybody else just has to figure out what we're thinking.
yeah. And so when you started the company, you were all in Utah. Is there a benefit for the film? Because there are certain states that are sort of cultivating film industries, from what I understand. Is Utah one of them?
So Provo actually was one of the
It's a very good tech state.
capitals of media. Like the number of YouTubers that were in Provo when we first started this company, it was like the 4th in the world.
Yeah. Well, because they were, from what I understand, they led like sort of lifestyle vlogging in the
Yes,
country.
and there's the piano guys are from Utah, Devin Supertramp,
Lindsey Sterling.
So there were a
But-
ton of views.
But not just that. Utah has a very strong ad market. So
Okay.
advertising agencies are very, very strong in Utah, and we have a very, very good tech market. And so Angel Studios, our core competencies are technology and marketing. That is what we're very, very good at. And then we work with amazing filmmakers to get their content to go global.
So I think we can try and play it. I don't know how it's going to look. Do you want to switch over and see what it looks like?
If you just go full screen.
We can't, but
It's fine if it can't. It's
I think
We'll have
this
slightly more
is.
screen this way, so
Yeah, I don't know if we can even do that.
it should be fine. Yeah, you can please
All right, well,
full
we'll-
screen in that.
Yeah, maybe switch to the just.
Yeah,
we
it's
go.
a little bigger. Maybe full screen
Eh.
inside there. I don't know.
Feel like I'm
Nah,
at the
full
movie
screen.
theater.
Full screen cuts up too
I
much.
thought- yeah.
Go back to the other one and we'll just play it.
Yeah, looks bigger there.
Give me some
So this is a
noise.
rough cut.
I got you. It's cool.
It was 1969, the beautiful day to fly. We were about 100 feet above the ground when I started noticing that something was wrong. It was engine failure. Trees were filling our windshield. We hit that dome, boom. I found myself above the crash site. And while I'm processing what I'm looking at, I could see a pilot. And this is me.
No two near-death experiences are the same.
Out of nowhere, a trailer truck hit me head-on. But
They typically occur in a very consistent process.
We began to go down the river, and my boat became pinned. I was drowning.
The first thing that happens is called an out-of-body experience.
And they come to a place of exquisite beauty.
They very commonly see a light. Deceased relatives come to meet them.
the first person I saw was my grandfather. Now I'm traveling like a rocket ship.
Straight upwards. And with that...
Oh my God, I'm alive. But not every near-death experience is a good one. 23% had hellish experiences. I saw a black tunnel.
I was just falling. I wasn't in fear, I was in terror. It was just darkness. Put me back. I don't belong here.
I heard a voice before I woke up. You still have a purpose on Earth.
I was very skeptical.
I never felt alive and then dead. I felt alive and then more alive.
I had full brain recordings from the dying human brain.
Even though they were unconscious, they were able to give corroborative evidence.
She's describing stuff that she just shouldn't know. This ain't right.
You can't be mystified by that question. What happens after you die?
This really does show that there is life after death.
Oh man, that looks awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
my
I got
gosh.
chills when the hellish scene happened in the. Wow, man, that's really well made.
It's an impressive. The guild picked this. Angel Guild picked this, and it just popped out. You know, getting 60 filmmakers a week in the guild. It's just like boom. This is one of them, and we're going with October because the Day of the Dead is in October. So that sounds fun.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, it sounds fun. It's
So
a good
it's-
juxtaposition.
It's like narrative documentary, like cinematic components
Yeah.
added to interviews.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's so cinematic.
Are all the
Like,
theaters going to be like, we gotta pick up this movie because Sound of Freedom is so good?
This will probably be a smaller release than for sure. It's a smaller release. This is a littler, like there'll be enough theaters that people can find it, but it will be a smaller.
This will be more similar to his own.
Oh, my
sound.
theater has it.
Yeah, more similar to his.
That
own
was going to
son.
be fun for Halloween.
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you feel pressure now that like Sound of Freedom is so big? You're like, well, what do we do next?
Well, I think Cabrini is going to be
Bigger?
on that level, and then we've got one coming in 2025 called David, and it's a $60 million animated musical because
What?
King David, and it's based on
Like
that.
old school Disney
so
style,
cool.
like,
It's like-
the way it used to be.
Yeah, like Prince
It's a
of
bunch
Egypt.
of people from the Pixar
Prince of
team
Egypt.
and
Oh,
the
King.
Disney team that have come together.
See,
They
winning a culture war, man.
But this is awesome because most musicals, everybody just breaks out music for no reason. And in David, King David was a musician, and he was called into King Saul to actually sing.
Right.
To bring down his nerves or whatever it was. It sounds like a emotional issue for King Saul, like schizophrenia or something when you read it. But he brings down his nerves because he's and he wrote the entire, like most of the book of Psalms, which he's just an incredible artist. So the music's all motivated throughout the entire animated musical because David's a musician. So it's a very interesting take, and I think it's going to be huge.
You guys said that this trailer we just watched is a rough cut. So what would be an example of how that would change as you're finalizing the trailer, like technically?
There's tweaks for messaging mostly. The audio's mostly there. It's not sweetened yet or balanced, so maybe that didn't turn out as well online. But you got a sneak peek. It's a live stream. And then you've got different messaging things where there's like, should we put like one of the debates was, should the dark stuff be so prominent in the trailer, or is that going to put some people off?
No,
And we're trying to figure out if that my wife responded the same way. She's like, that's so
That's
intriguing.
The engaging.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen anybody. First off, these kind of stories are very common. I've had neighbors that have had these type of experiences, but they're all so spread out and no one's ever gone through and just like told them in a really good way that's scientific as well as good storytelling. And this film's rock people.
I read a book about people call them near-death experiences, but the stories are actually death experiences.
They're death.
That's right.
Every single one of these, they're dead.
Right. People who
they are legally they're like doctors said they're dead.
19 years ago, someone lent me a book, and I was reading. This guy collected a bunch of stories of all these different people who had different, totally and dramatically different means of dying. Some, they were sick and they were on their deathbed in the hospital. Some were in car accidents. Some people slipped, fell, hit their head, things like this. Mm-hmm. And then they all described very, very similar things, much like what was actually in that trailer, how they described a place of beauty or a light and things like this. I want to ask one last question before we go to Super Chats. Video games.
Mm-hmm.
You guys gonna do any video games?
So we experimented with Roblox with Wing Feather Saga.
I think Wing Feather Saga will eventually be a really good video game.
Yeah.
It was built in Roblox?
No, it's built in. Wing Feather Saga is really interesting because they animated it and they built specific kind of animation. If you look up Wing Feather Saga trailer, this animation is designed. It will remind you. It came before Puss in Boots, the new one.
Yeah.
But it has some of the similarities. Puss in Boots. These guys pioneered this type of animation, and they used Epic's.
Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine, and they designed an entire way to animate with Unreal Engine, which means that it's easy to bring it into a video game.
Yeah.
It's built to be able to make a video game.
Yeah, the future, I think movies and video games are kind of coming together where you can become the character in the movie and experience it from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got one last question for you, Tim. Would you let them hook your brain and body up to a recording machine, perfect resolution recording, and then let them kill you and bring you back to life?
No. What do you mean?
Just wondering.
That's part two.
I wonder if that constitutes suicide. No,
Or
serious
murder
question.
if they kill you without your consent.
Well, no, I mean, if you choose to go
Canada,
into,
you can do it.
But if you if you choose to go to a lab and they say we're going to induce death and then bring you back, would that be suicide?
As long as you're in Canada, it's fine.
But I'm speaking
it's
spiritually and
interesting.
morally.
Yeah.
Are you now condemned to hell for the mortal sin of killing yourself?
And if they fail to bring you back, did they murder you?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I would assume that people are
Part
doing
two of
stuff like
After
that.
Death.
I like it.
But the video game stuff would be cool. There's
still happening.
One of the I played Final Fantasy 16. I thought it was not that good. Some people are saying it's so great. I'm like, ugh. The Horizon series is actually really, really good. I don't know if you guys have played it, but it's great storytelling. Long story short, guy invents self-replicating war machines. One of them gets a company that contracts a group of these machines gets locked out. The machines start self-replicating faster and faster. The rate of replication overwhelms human capabilities to stop it. Planet gets destroyed. The last-ditch effort is to build a terraforming system on Earth. So the game takes place in the future after civilization's collapsed, and you're fighting these gigantic machines. And then you later learn those machines were actually terraforming the planet. Some problem happens, chaos, conflict, etc. But it's cool to stories like that. Some people don't like it. I like it. Although the Forbidden West is irritatingly woke in that all the bad guys are dudes and all of the heroic generals of the good guys are women. And it's just like, at a certain point, come on, man. And they make you fight women all the time. And I'm like, it is kind of weird that in this game you go around just mercilessly beating women. But they wanted all of these fighters to be like very prominently female. And I'm like, it's just a game where you go around beating women. Like, even if they were going to do it 50-50, you'd have some guys here and some guys there. And it's like mostly women, so. But, video games would be cool. Let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, become a member to support our work directly. And we're going to have a members-only uncensored show where you, as members, can call in and talk to us and our guests and ask questions. That's the most fun part of the night. But for now, we will read your Super Chats. I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, I've come to the conclusion that Western intelligence agencies, specifically American, have grown beyond their scope and are more of a problem than solution. Do we dissolve or reform them? If so, how? You vote for Donald Trump and then you defund and dissolve.
Or Vivek.
Vivek said he'd do it.
Larry Elder said I
do
could
it.
be his press secretary. So.
Which one will really do it, though? That's the question.
Vivek.
Because I like Vivek. I like RFK. I
mean, Trump wants revenge.
I couldn't vote for Trump because he was for the lockdowns. Like, and his
He
spending.
wasn't for the lockdowns.
He wasn't against them.
He was against them.
Yeah.
He said we shouldn't do this. It should be by choice, but I don't have the authority. And then I don't think he said that articulately. He was like, I can't do it. It's the governors. They could do it. They're doing their thing.
Yeah, he was
for it in the beginning.
Too
though.
for it at the beginning.
The 15-day slow spread was like,
So for me, that's where he loses me. But I really like Vivek, and I like RFK Jr.
I think Vivek is how it is pronounced.
Vivek.
I thought it was Vivek, but it's Vivek.
Like
Vivek.
cake.
Okay, good. I've never said it out loud. I just read it.
Dude, he's legit. That guy's awesome. We just interviewed him last week.
He's
so fun.
He's
sharp.
He's the best guy running, in my opinion. But
Trump's.
I'm a realist, not an idealist. So
and he didn't offer me a job. So what's the point?
Vivek's ability to win.
We can be idealists during the primaries.
Idealistically, I'd love to see Vivek win. Realistically, I think he gets a cabinet position in a Trump administration. Trump's the guy with the gravitas to win.
He said that he wouldn't take a cabinet position because he's not wired to take a number 2 position. And I just thought that was like a very interesting, very self-aware comment. But maybe he'll change his mind.
He wouldn't be able to do it.
He said like some people, like, would you see a Vice President Trump? And it's like, it's very difficult to imagine a Vice President Trump.
All right, here we go. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, forget about Corn Pop. He was merely just a bad dude. Coconut and Monkey, on the other hand, are leading a domestic terrorism campaign against fellow crackheads, and they'll only get probation. Yeah, this is a story out of Seattle. Did you guys hear about this?
No,
IEDs were planted. There was a shootout. There's a drug camp that went up in flames. Coconut, I think, was the leader. His second in command was Monkey. Like, this is what's happening in these cities when people absolve themselves of their responsibilities and their civic duties.
Yep.
You get Coconut running around, setting fires. Apparently, there were people in a tent doing drugs, fentanyl, and then this guy placed a bunch of IEDs all over the place and just torched everything. One dude got like seriously burned and is in like critical condition or something.
I feel like I'm not seeing the story reported widely enough, which is also concerning.
What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to comment on a bunch of stuff that you don't want to talk about.
I'm like, why haven't I heard about this? Well, my first thought was I've been launching a movie.
Yeah.
So you're busy.
Yeah, I just don't think the corporate press is going to be like, did you know that far left extremists have implemented policies resulting in gang warfare in Seattle to the point where forests like are being set on fire and IEDs are being planted and shootouts are happening?
And they're assaulting people who are taking drugs that are trafficked across the border. Like,
Yeah,
they just don't want to talk about it.
Wow.
Steve McGee says, if Biden said Corn Pop is bad, I'm going to assume he is good. Well, the conspiracy theory is that Corn Pop caught Joe Biden touching kids inappropriately, and Joe Biden lied about the story for, brownie points or whatever.
And it turned out Corn Pop was a good dude.
Right. Joe Biden's got that story where it was like, the kids, they'd rub my legs. I got hairy legs. It's like, what?
Why are you
And someone made a cartoon where Joe Biden's in a pool and the kids are rubbing his legs or whatever. Yeah, maybe Corn Pop saw him and was like, stop touching these kids, you freak. And then Joe Biden grabbed a rusty chain and was like, what'd you say to me?
Great story.
I mean, look.
Make a movie
I
out
don't
of it.
trust Joe Biden's version of events. I called him Esther and he got mad.
Corn
Nah, I
Pop
don't
will
like
have
that.
his day.
All right. Coco Madetta says, the Tuttle Twins books are the best. My kids love them. And I'm buying extra to give for birthday gifts. Spread the good news by doing the same.
What is it? I don't know.
Tuttle Twins?
Yeah.
Tuttle Twins is a best-selling book series that sold, I think, 5 or 6 million copies that teach kids about the principles of liberty and economics. And we've made a TV series based on the book series. I'm wearing the hat. That's got this grandma Cupid who's in a wheelchair, and her wheelchair happens to be an interdimensional time-traveling wheelchair. And she takes her twin grandkids that are half Cuban, half American, and flies them around to meet characters like Benjamin Franklin or Harriet Tubman or Frederick Bastiat. They're just all inventors, entrepreneurs, educators. It's halfway through season 2 right now. It's growing parabolically. It is a huge hit. You can watch it for free with your kids on the Angel app or angel.com. It's
growing exponentially.
It is killer.
I
It
know
is so good.
a lot of parents who use Tuttle Twins as part of their homeschool curriculum
Yeah.
because they produce some companion stuff. So it's
Mhm.
interesting that you'd offer a TV version.
It's the same writing team is doing this that wrote the Squatty Potty ad. So that tells you how funny it is.
So this is it's a show. It's a cartoon show.
It's a cartoon series. Yeah, about 20 minutes per episode.
We are our timeline for our coffee shop, our first Casper location, may be this fall. I'm hoping. We were planning on having it open in the spring, but we're in a historic building, so that brings up a whole bunch of complications with what we can do, what we can use, what we can't use, how long it's going to take to get things up and running. But the plan we had, and the reason why I want physical spaces, one, we want to have 1,000 locations all over the country. The general idea that I pitch is mom's on her way to soccer practice with the kids. She wants to get a cup of coffee. She walks in and orders it, and while she's waiting, there are TV screens, and they're playing Crowder,
We can
Timcast
get you.
IRL.
We can get you Tuttle Twins for that. And
Well,
Waiting for their saga.
better than that. The big idea outside of the general idea is Saturday morning cartoons, where Saturdays at like 6 a.m. we open early. We invite families to come with their kids. We play content that is wholesome, approved, and good for the kids. Parents interact, build community with each other. The kids meet each
Love
other
it.
and play. There will be a food catering or something. And then what's on the TV? It could be Tuttle Twins. It could be, what's the Daily Wire doing? Chinchilla? The what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So getting supporting the parallel economy, but just having shows for kids that are good, educational, wholesome all at the same time. We're not going to go near any of the traditional stuff that I grew up with because, well, they're going to sue us into oblivion and stuff like that. So we're going to support the companies that support us, and that's the plan. It's like secular church almost.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Tuttle Twins is every bit as high quality. Like think Rick and Morty, but with a moral compass.
So one of the twins is drunk, and
no, it's solid. It's good.
I love that you're teaching economics to kids. That
Yeah.
lit me up when I was in first grade, and then they just didn't give it to me for the rest of my schooling.
Yeah, we just
I
did.
wanted it.
We just did.
Yeah,
a-
my 6-year-old comes up and recounts these random facts about Frederick Hyatt or
They went and met Milton Friedman and learned about inflation, and my kids are like, "Oh, I saw inflation at the grocery store the other day. The thing I normally buy with my money was more expensive than last. This is inflation."
and
they're
I
like,
know why.
Yeah, and then they repeat the lines like "inflation kills a nation," and then, or a couple weeks ago they did they released the episode on hard money, and they talk about Bitcoin and explain Bitcoin, and they meet Satoshi Nakamoto.
Ooh,
and
is he wearing a mask?
That went super viral. It's got like a thing with Elon Musk like blasting off with Doge dogs in a rocket.
but is Satoshi like a silhouette or something?
No, his face gets covered every.
You never see anything but his eyes. And but he's explaining the whole like what hard money is.
Yeah.
So it's really fun.
Right on. All right. Hank Fett says building culture is a slow process that means nothing if it doesn't change the people in power or how the ones we vote for represent us. Anything we do can easily be undone by the laws they pass. Incorrect, sir. Incorrect. And I explained this after your super chat, to be fair. You super chatted, and then later in the show we were talking about it. But there are so many laws on the books that do not get enforced. That's just it. They can pass all the laws they want. If police don't enforce it, they're meaningless.
It becomes civil disobedience, essentially.
It's
on a mass level.
Cohabitation's illegal in West Virginia. A man and a woman who are unmarried are not allowed to live together. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Like, no cop is going to enforce that.
Mm-hmm.
Within that same law, you cannot be openly lewd or lascivious, as particularly with children. Yet they still have lewd adult shows with kids at these pride events.
Mm-hmm.
No cop will go near it. Doesn't matter that the laws in the books says you can't do it. The culture in the space is shifting. We got to shift it back and say, hey man, leave these kids alone.
There's this in episode 6 of season 1 of Tuttle Twins. They cover this issue. Just looping that back in is that there's a song that this guy from Georgia who lives in a houseboat he's parked in this boat for more than 30 days and it's illegal. And he sings a whole song about everything's illegal.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. Anyway,
did you know that if you stop at a yellow light, that's illegal, and if you go through yellow light, that's illegal?
No.
It's the interpretation of the officer. So
they can give you a ticket for either.
Either way. If you slam your brakes on, they can say it's reckless. It's an abrupt stop could cause an accident. You're getting a fine. If you go through it, they can say potentially speeding, or they can make up a reason. Disorderly conduct is the easiest one. Every jurisdiction effectively has disorderly conduct. You could be protesting, holding up a sign, and they say, take that sign down now. And you say, I'm not doing anything wrong. Disorderly conduct. You're under arrest.
Probably
Everything's
true of
illegal.
resisting arrest too. Like,
Yeah, there are tons of protesters who have been arrested for resisting arrest.
Yeah, how many felonies does the average person commit a day?
I think it's 3.
Yeah.
How can you like? That's the funniest
Yeah, we
thing.
have
It's
some
like,
friends who were up in Idaho and they were singing outside during COVID.
They just won that.
Yeah.
They just got an award from Moscow, Idaho. They
Yeah.
got arrested in Moscow during the COVID period. They went outside and worshipped at a church in Moscow, Idaho. It made it illegal, and they went out and sang outdoors, and they were like tackling him and arresting him. And they just got a huge award for.
They won the case.
Yeah, they won the case.
All right,
or
Sebi-
settled it. I'm not sure if it was
Or settled.
They won or settled.
Sebi Rose says, "Thank you, Sound of Freedom, Angels." Tech question: have you heard of Sponsor Block? I was reminded of it by your lawsuit, open source browser extension, and a database of user contributed timestamps for skipping embedded advertising in supported/cracked players.
Cool. There's a free open source browser extension.
What Fandom says, just got the post that Sound of Freedom is coming to Tasmania, so Australia is getting it. Hyped to see it.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
Oh.
Yep.
I think you guys
In August.
posted it. It's going international in a bunch of places.
Yeah,
or-
you can go to angel.com/blog and all the announcements right there.
Yeah, it's coming to all of Latin America on October.
No, August 31st.
August
Latin America.
31st, and then Brazil's in September, I think.
Yeah, September 21st.
And
UK's September 1st.
So
I think it's August 16th in Australia.
Are all the Harman Brothers co-founders and equity holders of Angel Studios? Or are there other investors, other people?
There's 4 brothers that co-founded out of the 6 that co-founded Angel Studios.
But I think
do you have other investors like
we have because we're owned by the
community,
the audience and the community too. We have 10,000.
Yeah, the
but
Angels Guild
outside of
owns
that,
us.
were there like prominent individuals who were like, we're going to pledge a large amount of money to help you guys get off the ground, or
We have
anything like that?
3 VC funds.
Yeah,
3 or 4.
and one
that
of them actually their LPs are from Mexico. So
Oh,
this
wow.
is interesting.
That was the first fund that invested.
Yeah.
Their LPs are in Mexico, and then the most recent fund that invested is called GigaFund, which is one of the largest investors in SpaceX.
Oh yeah. GigaFund is
Yeah.
Wow.
They put
that's Elon, isn't it?
They did $40-something million. They put a lot of money. They follow Elon's companies and they put money in them.
Wow. Yeah, because aren't they? They fund.
They
a lot of
invest
Elon
in
stuff.
companies that they believe will change their industry over the next decade.
They invested in you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are
They
these
put
guys
quite a
jumping
bit.
up on their desks and doing the Lindy Hop because of the success you're having?
They're happy right now.
Fantastic investment, by the way.
We had a good.
Well, we made some good
we had a
decisions
good
there.
board meeting last week.
They're like, guys, we got $130 million on this movie.
Yeah,
Slam dunk.
so GigaFund, yeah, they've put in, and their goal is they just say any company that's going to change the world and that they believe the founders will stick around with it for a decade or 2.
And part of the settlement was that Jeffrey and I put up our stock against the settlement to move on.
Wow.
How does that work? You put up the stock?
That
14
just
years.
means for 14 years our stock's tied up.
Which means we're in this for at least
Like,
14 years.
If we filter Disney stuff over the next 14 years, they could come after us for our stock.
So you're really putting your word.
Yeah,
in
we're
what you're
putting
saying.
our
your livelihood.
Yep, livelihood on the line.
Goldilocks Production says, I always hate when people say don't fight fire with fire. That makes things worse. Has no one heard how they fight forest fires? They use controlled burns to fight them, fighting fire with fire. What they'll do in fields, you'll see if there's like brush fire and stuff, they'll actually burn a line.
Yep.
Right.
And that stops the fire.
That's kind of like an example would be like if they're like sending kids to a sexualized system, and you're like, yeah, that would be great if we could overly sexualize every little kid, and that's like you burning a perimeter around the idea so that they're like, okay, I'm not going to go that far. So that'd be an idea of like fire with fire.
I don't think in that capacity. I don't agree with that.
Oh, that's how I think in the capacities like those.
Paul Morris says, become alive, start to thrive. JM13SC says, based, not disgraced. I was thinking just like not woke, not broke. I mean, it doesn't exemplify making money though.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Our goal, one, if you want to change the world, capitalism is the best vehicle.
Too good, actually.
Go make money on something that's going to change the world. Like the only way we're going to get Sound of Freedom to every corner of the earth is if we make it super economically profitable, or else it will never get there. It just can't. And so that's the first thing. The second thing that we try to focus on is focus on what you're for more than what you're against. If you focus on what you're for, you'll get further. I think you get a quicker start when you focus on what you're against, but if you focus on what you're for, you'll get a longer run.
This is a good one. El Rojo Grande says, reject woke trash and and drown in cash.
I think that one's great.
I'm still looking for a positive one.
You got to find the rhythm a little bit, but it's pretty good.
Reject woke trash, and he put rake / drown. So I think drown in cash.
I like drowning cash.
Reject woke trash, rake in the cash.
Oh, that one's good too.
That works.
Amazing.
Reject the cult, and you won't go broke. Be based, and cash awaits. There's really no good rhymes. No, the first one was good. Reject woke trash and rake in the cash.
Yeah. I'm looking for something.
Get woke, go broke. That's a classic.
Yeah.
It's hard to compete with that.
But you know, rich. Something
But
that
I'm
rhymes with
loving this
rich.
workshopping.
But really, I guess the idea is get woke, go broke also does mean the inverse.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not woke, you will not go broke. You know, it's getting woke which makes you go broke. Mike Z says the Wing Feather Saga is amazing show and book series. As a writer myself, I've been working on a book for a number of years. When my mother caught wind of the series and showed me it, I now own the entire book series and am blown away on the similarities. Thanks, angels.
Oh yeah, and my daughter, who's 8, she told me for years Frozen has been. She's like, Elsa's my favorite movie. After watching the first season of Wing Feather Saga, she said, and this is after many years, she said, Elsa's no longer my favorite movie.
Oh wow,
Wing Feather Saga is my favorite movie.
We got to crowdfund that buddy cop movie.
Yeah, me and Roseanne.
Ian and Roseanne.
And Mel
buddy
Gibson's
cop.
going to be the police chief.
I don't know if he knows that yet.
No, I haven't called him yet.
But you should.
Yeah, Mel, give me a ring.
Buddy cop.
It's going to be great, man.
What's the conflict? You know, it's like a.
I think we need to find anti-gravity. We need to recover the anti-gravity tech because someone's trying to.
Well, they're not cops. That's like secret agents.
Yeah, the idea of buddy cop is just kind of a genre. So we'll just be like two partners.
But it would be funny if you were both like beat cops. You know?
Yes,
I would love to
100%.
see both of you be beat
And Mel
cops.
Gibson's like, I won't stand for it. And then Roseanne's like, yeah, son of a bitch. I don't know. Only Rosie can do Rosie, you know.
Or maybe a superhero film where Ian, as a beat cop, is chasing a bad guy who breaks into a graphene laboratory.
For sure.
And
Dude, we're
then-
doing graphene.
And then what you do is, it's not, in Batman, the Joker falls into the vat of chemicals, but in this one, it's Ian who falls into the
that's
vat
a
of
good idea. And then
chemicals.
me and Roseanne become enemies, but then at the end, it's like,
I didn't say
I'm not going
Roseanne
to
was the
spoil
bad
it.
guy.
No, because I'll become kind of a creepo after I fall in the vat.
you become a
She's like,
superhero.
yeah, but there's tension after that, And so we've got to overcome the tension. I'm not going to spoil the end. Hopefully it works out. Oh, speaking of graphene.
Yep,
Thanks,
Ian-
Serge.
I saw you
Ian
reach
does
for
have
it.
that
It's centered
graphene.
on the
Serge was
table.
holding it, keeping it close.
Let's grab some more super chats. Gormal says, I never believed in the death penalty until The Merchant of Death was released. Some people do things so evil, the only way we can ensure they don't do it again is death. If they live, the chance of those evils still exist. And I don't disagree. The problem is when Kamala Harris walks up to you and says, this guy right here deserves death, I'm going to be like, yeah, lady, not happening. I don't trust you. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, not sorry.
Legitimately, it's 4%. The studies show that 4% of death penalty are accidents. They don't get the right person.
Think of all the things that you don't trust the state to do for you. So,
Right.
Let's not add to the list.
Bureaucratized death is not. It's not a good thing, And the thing is, on the surface, when you get a governor you trust, and he's like, "This guy murdered kids. He was convicted. We're gonna, put him to death or whatever." On the surface, it's very much like we get it.
Yeah, well, and they do deserve death.
People. So the thing about abusing kids, especially this trafficking and rape and all that stuff, is it's worse than murder. I really do think so. Murder takes a life, but abusing children in this way rips apart the fabric of human civilization.
Yep.
So it's like
there's a reason why Jesus was so like wrap a millstone around their neck and throw them to the bottom of the ocean.
And that line from Caviezel was so good. He ad-libbed it. Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't know Jesus said that. That's cool. That's like from the Bible.
That
It
is from the Bible.
And that was for
Jesus
people that were hurting
says it
children.
is better that a millstone be wrapped around your neck and thrown to the bottom of the ocean than hurt one of his kids.
It's like he who would hurt God's children shall have a millstone cast around their neck and be cast into the ocean, or something to that effect. There's different translations of it, but the general idea is.
But he went.
Who would
like,
turn their children from me or something like that.
Yeah,
like
he went
corrupt
total.
them.
He went total gangster right there.
Look, the things they do to kids when those kids grow up, they hold those traumas and it ripples out.
It ripples
causes
out, and
societal
they
crises.
act out on other kids, or they act out on most of child abuse is kid on kid now. because adults start it and they hit a kid, and then the kid goes and does it to their peers.
But even beyond that, a kid who is abused, who grows up and struggles and can't hold a job and is traumatized and just harmed, it's going to cause ripple effects.
Destroys their life.
Yeah.
And then all the kids they would have had or do have are affected. And it's really hard to break those chains. It's really hard. People listening know that if you're the one who has to break the chain, that is a really hard thing. And I honestly think the only way to do it is through Christ. That's the way you break the chain. But
Chris W. says, Angel Studios, please create an unwoke cinematic universe of fairy tale remakes.
No, I like the original content, I have to say. I like that you guys are telling new stories.
I think cinematic universe is a good idea, but the only one who's ever pulled it off was Marvel, and only for 10 years. Because after Infinity
People
War,
are getting sick of it.
It's garbage.
we are going to try to create a cinematic universe around the founders.
That's cool. It's not. I don't think people are sick of cinematic universes. I think it's that they can't do it. Here's how it works, right?
No, I think people are sick of the fake hero stories, like made up hero stories. That's what people are sick of. They love to have a universe that they can get into.
They made Iron Man, or actually it was the Hulk in 2008, I think. At the end, there's an end credit scene.
No, Iron Man was first.
No, Hulk was. Yeah, Hulk was the first Marvel Studios film.
Really?
Yes. And at the end of it, General what's-his-face, I don't remember his name, meets with Robert Downey Jr. in a restaurant, and it was basically just Iron Man's next. Then they made Iron Man.
And that wasn't even the good Hulk, right? That was
that was I think that was considered to be the better Hulk film.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
the one with Edward Norton, I think.
Yeah,
Edward
is that the
Norton.
one in Brazil?
I don't know, maybe.
What?
But
it looks like Iron Man was released like 2 months before. They were both in 2008. Iron Man was
I thought
May
Iron Man
2nd,
was first.
and then in June,
Pretty
Hulk
sure
came out. June 8th was released in the U.S. On June 13th in the U.S.
You sure?
That's what, according to Marvel Cinematic Universe.fandom.com, Wikipedia, and IMDb. But it's a small discrepancy. They were within 2 months
We
of
just
each other.
loved that story because
Sorry to interrupt you.
they went through bankruptcy at the same time when they started the cinematic universe, and so we were like,
There's some
You're like-
parallels.
there were
with
some
us.
parallels.
you
Oh,
feel
you're right.
something.
Yeah, it was Iron Man. I thought it was the Hulk. Wow.
Yeah.
How did the Hulk get?
We're destroying Tim's universe right now.
But I do think that the Hulk actually,
the-
like the story proceeded, like that's where the story fell. But
The general idea was they didn't actually make a cinematic universe. They were just putting plugs for the next movie to get people excited.
right,
But it effectively connected all the films.
yeah,
And so then they were like, hey, let's roll with this.
Yeah.
Whereas DC was then like, we're going to make a cinematic universe. And they just crammed a bunch of garbage into a bunch of films. And it was like, this is nonsense. It doesn't work.
That's how it feels crammed. Like it doesn't
Right.
feel organic the way
That's
the
what's
other things
happened
do.
to Marvel too now, though. It's starting to feel more like DC.
So we got
I
another
want to
shout
make
out-
some new heroes.
Right. C.S. Cooper says, I loved Wingfeather Saga. Can't wait for the next season. Also, Freelancers. I'm going
Yeah,
to pitch
Freelancers
my
is really good.
novels and movie ideas to Angel Studios. Feel like expanding to Australia. What about...
that was a question. Do you feel like...
Oh, do we?
we are.
Rip
We, I
Rivers?
mean,
We have David's coming from a South African filmmaker. Their entire studio's in South Africa. The David movie. That's as far as ways you can get from where we're at.
What were you asking, Tim?
Rippaverse, Eric July's comic book stuff.
Rippaverse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, why don't you guys, make...
Yeah,
make
we somebody can connect us.
yeah. Make movies based
I
off
follow
of...
Eric on Twitter, but I haven't connected with him yet.
Come on, Eric.
I don't know if it's
Take
number.
one of
What are
it.
we doing?
I'm
I
not
don't know
super
who this
familiar with
is.
this comic book series other than the massive success he's had with it.
He has, yeah. He's
And
really
then
good.
make a movie based on these characters.
Could be fun.
And take over the superhero genre away from the weird stuff that's been going on. What do we got? We'll grab some more. Louis T says, the best movies have been from the 50s, 60s. Hollywood is so into remakes that I think you could bring back the best of the classics and make some winning cinema. We seem to be out of movie ideas. There's gold in the past. No. I disagree. I agree that there's a lot of old great movies, but I'm over the remakes. Like, let's get some new culture infused into the machine. That's what people are craving.
I was
And
thinking.
people-
Go ahead.
oh, people think that the golden age of cinema is behind us.
I don't
It's
think
just
so.
because the model got gutted and there wasn't a path for real risk taking and storytelling, and we think that's solved for the future.
The carbon age is upon us.
Yeah.
The diamond age. Maybe let's create that. The diamond.
Yeah. Platinum.
Or palladium, but that
Palladium.
takes too long to say.
The
Yeah, the
Palladium's
platinum
I like
age.
it.
cooler though.
Yeah, palladium's hot. That's how you do cold fusion.
Or the
Tabletop
opal age
fusion.
weren't opals kind of a big deal for a while?
I like opals. I might have some around here.
You were talking about it, and then the price of opals spiked, and I was like, "This guy really knows his stuff."
Yeah.
This is like last year.
I wasn't involved in that.
I was thinking of the movie The Book of Kells, which was like an Irish production, and it was just new and different, and sort of based on, from what I know about it, from Irish mythology. It's not just like, and now we're gonna tell Little Red Riding Hood again, which is a fantastic story if you read to your children, but there's just more out there, and I think being able to give creators sort of a fresh take and a fresh chance rather than rehashing the same thing over and over again. It would be cool to see, and I think that's something you guys prioritize.
You got to give him a hero, like just an epic flaw. It makes the character so good.
Yeah, I've never enjoyed the Superman stuff because he's too
perfect.
perfect. Like, I thought almost for a second when they, like, which one was it where Superman almost dies? And I was like, oh, is he going to kill him and let his son be like, because he has a son now that's like half and half. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if they killed off Superman and then let a more flawed version of Superman come up afterwards, and then they've just made a good, and DC didn't do that. But I thought that would be kind of cool, as if they let him self-sacrifice, let his son, who's now half human,
just man, just call him
man, half man, half human, then Super.
Right on. All right, everybody, we're going to go to the members only show. So go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. And in a few minutes, we'll have that members only show up on the front page. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast everywhere. Do you guys want to shout anything out?
Angel.com.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you be part of Stories That Matter.
Right on. Any social media? Any Twitter?
I'm at Jeffrey Harman on Twitter.
At Neil S. Harman, Neal S. Harman.
Right on.
People should go see that indie film, Sound of Freedom. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, go watch Sound of Freedom. It's still hard to get tickets in most of the country.
Studio converted to indie film.
Yeah.
Converted,
yeah.
Yeah. That was a studio film converted indie, and now then somehow turned into a QAnon thing.
Well, I'm really glad you guys were both here. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. It's the absolute best, and you can follow me personally on Instagram at hannahclaire.b and on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah Claire. I'm Ian Crossland. Follow me on X at Ian Crossland. That's where I X throughout the day. And I want to just get your X profiles again.
Stop making
Jeffrey.
X the thing.
X profile.
It's Jeffrey Harman.
Jeffrey, Jeffrey Harman, Harmon.
And Neil.
Neal S. Harmon.
Got it. Thanks, guys. Great to see you, man. Good to see you guys. I see you over there, Jordan. I love you, brother. Have a nice night, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, what's with making X a thing, bro?
It's so real.
You talked to Kellen about this too. They were all on it last night.
So weird. Anyways, so you guys can find me on Bird app, which is what I'll continue to call it. Surge.com. Thank you guys. Pleasure. U of U is my alma mater, so I appreciate your guys' work. And I will catch you later. See ya.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.